Welcome everyone to the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the Public Teachings in English. My name's Rick Crammond. I'll be your host today, as every Wednesday at the same time, same place for the last few years, and still kicking. Okay, we barely made it today with technical difficulties. Sorry for the late start, but here we are. And as per usual, I usually request of people if they have anything to present or discuss or display for today's workshop. And I believe we have an affirmative on that from Lee Coates. So without further ado, let's begin with you, Lee.
Okay, I got some pictures I want to show, so can I share the screen here?
Yeah, let me see if I have to do something special to allow you that. I think you can do that. I'll just stop the share and make it easier to find the buttons. Oops, how did it work?
That's not what I wanted.
It's over here.
What do you see there?
I see a bunch of pictures of garden.
Okay.
But they're small and single, right?
I double clicked on one and brought it up, but
yeah, you have to bring up the picture first and then share it, I think, unless you have a.
Okay, let's try that over.
Pictures.
Try that over again if I can get it here.
Or else you just have to share your whole desktop, I guess. Maybe that's what you're doing, but.
Well, I was just trying to.
You probably have to reshare, I think.
Yeah, I was just trying to get back into Zoom.
Oops.
Okay, I can't get back into the Zoom.
Is there anything at the top of your screen or?
Oh yeah, okay. Let me click new share.
Okay.
Maybe I better, before I do that. I'm out of practice here, Rick.
Me too. Yeah, so usually if you bring up the picture and then share the screen from there. Okay, we see that.
That better?
Good. Yeah.
Okay, so can you see my mouse on the screen by chance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so right up here is my new Gans ball spinner. It's got two purposes. It's a little windmill, one of these spiral windmills, and two purposes. The Gans ball is right at the top there, underneath that little green cap.
Oh, that's the cap. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'll zoom in a little later and on some more pictures, but this is the garden I'm putting in this year. It's self-wicking buckets and some hydroponic buckets using the Cracky hydroponic bucket system. And I planted some Saskatoon berries and honeyberries and elderberries, and I put a little vial of Gans underneath the root ball, and in these self-wicking buckets, there's a water reservoir in the bottom, and I got a little vial of Gans in there. In the hydrophonic buckets, I just got a vial of Gans in the water, the hydrophonic solution. So I've got some fields going on in each bucket, and I'm figuring I'll spin a ball up above and try and get the field circulating a bit better. So that's the one purpose. The second purpose, the Gans in this ball is 1 cup, 1 life Gans. So it's a COVID virus repeller, I hope. So that's,
wow, nice setup, nice clean looking deal there. And you've got quite a bit of square footage of garden going on there too.
that's some of it.
Go ahead.
Okay. A little bit of delay here. We both want to talk at once. I was just going to say my backyard's got a 10-degree slope on it, and these buckets have got to sit level. So I've built these little platforms to level platforms for the buckets to sit on. Plus, it gets the buckets up at 3-foot height, so you can weed them and work on them without having to bend over.
Yeah, that's important.
Now that I'm hit the 70-degree or 70-year-old range, I don't like bending over so much. So
yeah, right. Tell me about your little windmill thing there. Is that something you made, or is it a factory deal?
No, it's something I've made. I'm going to put 4 of these in the garden. 3 of them down at the level of that white one that you saw in the first picture, and then 1 on the balcony here. I'll stick it up in a 2x4 up higher, so I'll have our favorite configuration as well. But I got myself a 3D printer, and this windmill part is made up of 3 sections which are printed up and screwed together.
Yeah.
And you can print up this bracket to hold the shaft. In my case, I'm using a 1/2-inch copper pipe because I had these bearings around for the 1/2-inch copper pipe. This sort of brownish block, top and bottom, that's my bearing block that I had to make up. So I got a bearing up, ball bearing up top, ball bearing down below, with the shaft up through the middle. And then that other green thing at the top, that's the top that you can 3D print to screw onto the top of this windmill. So I've just inserted the bearing block in between there. And then on top of this block, I've got a little Gans ball, one of those Halloween eyeball Gans balls that are about 1.25 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
And then I put a half of another plastic ball on top for UV protection because it's out in the sun. So that's just nice. Siliconed on there for UV. So
yeah, easier on the eyeballs.
That's right. So that's easy to replace a year or 2 down the road when it deteriorates or whatever. What else can I say about this one? In the Gans ball, I only put the Gans half full in the ball so that when the temperatures get down to -35 there in the wintertime, we usually get a week of -35 weather in Calgary here. And that way I hope the ball won't break when it freezes. It's got some room for expansion in there. So that's basically.
So the big question is, how many RPMs does it do?
Well, that I don't know yet. I road tested the white one, holding it outside the window of my car going down the road, and it didn't kick in till 20 kilometers an hour. And the green one here, I road tested it tonight, and it kicks in at 10 kilometers an hour. So I got a little bit of bearing drag in the white one, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't squirt this lighter oil in that one, whereas I squirted lighter oil in this one to get it to work better. That just shows the mounting bracket screwed to the end of my trellis there for the tomato plants to climb on.
And is this designed from somebody else from the internet? Like you downloaded a file, or did you?
Yeah, you go to a place called Thingiverse.
Yes,
and
yes.
they have all free stuff you can download.
I see.
If you go to Thingiverse and search the search term windmills, and this was one of the many they had there. I was looking for one where I could get the bearing blocks in on the shaft, and this one seemed like it would work good, so that's the one they chose to print up. So those are the two parts you print up, and the third part was that block to mount that mounting block, which I did. It's getting printed. My third one of those is getting printed up now, so that's why I didn't get in this picture. And those are the two little bearing blocks that I made. This is just some remelted plastic block that I make in the oven.
Yeah.
And then I drill it and shape it and do whatever, work it like a piece of wood. So there we got one mounted on the pole here. Just up the west side of the house, I'm going to mount a second one on one of the poles over here, one of the posts. That's my squash plants up the sides there. This is my pole beans to climb up this trellis. On the east side, there's a bunch of potato plants and some herbs in those blue buckets. That's some Saskatoon berry bushes that I planted with the Gans file underneath. On the root ball, a couple of 4 elderberry bushes there. Up on my deck on this, I got these hydroponic little grow boxes, I guess, made out of eave trough downspout. And the green foam there is a slice off a pool noodle that you get at the dollar store. And you keep this filled up with the hydroponic water mix. So I got, well, basically this is outside my kitchen door. So up here, these plants are going to be salad type stuff. So I can just go out the door and get some fresh salad. This is the vials I'm putting into the water. And they're only about a quarter full. Again, room for expansion or whatever. I didn't fill them all up. Just a little bit of Gans in each one. That's just showing some roots growing into the hydroponic stuff. This is the self-wicking bucket. That white tube there is how you fill up the reservoir at the bottom. And the self-wicking buckets, they got a space in the bottom. You can use empty bottles, or I'm using this corrugated drain pipe. So you stick that in the bottom. You drill a hole in the bucket about 3 inches up. That leaves a 1-inch air space on the top of the water that's in the reservoir, and you leave about a 10 or 20% space where the dirt can get right down into the water, and that's where it wicks up from. And then you put before you put the dirt in, you put landscape fabric across this to separate the water reservoir from the dirt. And as you fill it up, you put a bit of fertilizer in the dirt and so on, and it works good. It's just some more buckets I got in the garden there, and tomato plants and the pole beans. And there's my windmill. Hopefully it'll circulate some fields. So that's it.
Well,
Any questions?
You've been a busy boy. Yeah, any questions from our panelists here? See, Johnny's here. He might have a question. He has similar ideas in his garden. Geez, makes my little garden put to shame here.
Yeah, well, you didn't see mine last year. It was a real black thumb garden.
Yeah, I think you're going to have good production there.
So anyway, I've got way too many tomatoes this year. The neighbors are going to have tomatoes.
Well, maybe they have something that you can use as well. So
Keep
that's
my
the
fingers
beauty of
crossed.
that deal. Mhm.
Yeah.
Looks like you could plow up that lawn across the street there too, maybe.
Yeah, that's the green belt. The town may not like that.
Well, plant more
Well,
green things.
you'll have to get all the neighbors together and go petition the town for a community garden.
Well, it's not such a bad idea. A lot of the lawns are being converted. I noticed one today that I just drove by, and somebody was completely had dug up their beautiful lawn and had planted raised sort of garden area on top of it. So
Yeah,
this is going on quite a bit.
my neighbor next door has got all bark and rocks and whatever.
Mhm.
A few flower beds. Yeah.
Okay, anybody have any questions? I'm not sure about, let me check the YouTube.
This isn't a question. I just wanted to say thank you. This is really beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Well, I don't know what else to say. So, oh, on your, I was wondering about your little hydroponic buckets there, the ones we see in the picture on the left side of the middle. Um, those plants just sit in the solution, the hydroponic solution. That there's no bubbler in it or pump or anything like that. It's just a passive system.
No, it's just to pass the system. This is it's called the Cracky method, or it was by a guy at I think he was out of the University of Hawaii, or someone out in Hawaii anyway. I'm not sure the university, but he came up with the system, and it's all kinds of videos over the internet showing you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to make sure you don't drown your plants as the water level goes down. Your roots have to have, part of it has to have oxygen to the roots, and the bottom half of the roots have to be in the water. So as this water level goes down over the summer, I got to make sure I don't overfill it to drown out the big plant once it gets bigger. But it's got some it's just a fertilizer mix in the water, that some special blend that you order off the internet.
You can oxygenize the water, and that'll help with the prevent the root rot that you're talking about.
Yeah, you can get circulating systems and bubblers and all kinds of stuff if you. But apparently this works good. A lot of people are just doing this.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is the simplicity. You don't have to do a lot of maintenance, so that's the great thing.
And with the self-wicking buckets are working really good too. And if the guy who's got lots of videos out on them is a guy named Leon down in Oklahoma. He's a commercial gardener, or got commercial greenhouses down there. His YouTube site is Gardening with Leon, and everyone who does these wicking buckets sort of always refers back to him. He's had videos out for a couple of years. He puts a video out every week showing all kinds of various things about these buckets and the other kind of bucket, those buckets, and he shows you how to do it and what fertilizers to use and all the rest of it.
How do you know when to top it up on this example?
Well,
on this the white tube there, right?
I can dip a stick down that white tube to see how much water I got down there.
Dipstick, right?
What lot of people use 20-liter buckets down in Oklahoma. Leon gets these 20-liter buckets from the cattle farmers because they get molasses and minerals for their cows in it, and so you can get the buckets for free. But I couldn't find any of those So I bought some bigger ones from on Amazon, but they're expensive. And
Oh, they're not 5 gallon, then they're bigger than 5
yeah,
gallon.
these blue ones are 5 gallon, and I was just those pink ones there, the 20 or the 20 gallon buckets, the ones I got my potatoes in there. But you can get these totes, these tubs from. I checked the local salvage yard and the thrift stores. You can pick up these totes, and they work as good as these buckets. You know, best thing of all is to get a 50 gallon drum and cut it in half, and then you got a nice big tub that's really sturdy. And you can get lots of water storage in the bottom of it. So, but with COVID,
I used a Rubbermaid tub and put 6 kale plants in it, and they're quite happy in there.
Yep.
Just drilled out the bottom with holes to give some aeration. Yeah,
well, with the holes in the bottom, apparently you got to water these buckets every day or thereabouts. With the self-wicking system here, it'll go at least a week. With kale, it'll probably go for 2 or 3 weeks, one of these Rubbermaid tubs, without having to add water. Tomato plants, I probably got to put water in once they get big, I'll have to put water in them every day. But
I see. Interesting. Yeah.
So the idea of the self-wicking was so you don't have to water it as often.
Yeah. Jellica says, thanks, Lee, for sharing. I would like to hear in a few weeks what you experienced, how it affects your plants and your surrounding.
Yep. Well, end of the year or middle of summer or something, we'll report back. I don't have a control going here, so I can.
Yeah, that's the other thing, I guess. It'd be nice to have, but.
Yeah. But.
When you want to grow the best, why would you want to grow control? You know, that's the thing. It just takes up square footage, and
that's right. I know this works, so I'm going to do it.
Johnny says, magnificent. Thanks for sharing. Okay, Johnny has his hand up, so go ahead, Johnny, if you have a question or a comment.
Hello, everyone. John, ¿estás?
Sí.
Magnífico lo que ha presentado y claro, queremos ver cómo va a evolucionar dentro de un mes.
It's magnificent what you've presented to us, and we want to see how this is evolutionizing, or whatever word in English, I forget. In a month's time.
Maybe how it evolves over
time. Okay. Ahora quiero, si estás de acuerdo, mostrar el oasis de Gianni Jetta después de un mes, para que se vea en solo un mes que ha pasado en el oasis.
And we want to show you in a month's time to our oasis system, so you can see how this evolves.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was wondering if this having all these Gans things in everywhere would make this into an oasis. It's going to be interesting to see that too over the summer, if I get lots of hail or whether it keeps the hail away and all that kind of stuff. I'm up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, so I'm in growing zone 2. I think it's 2A, so it's a short growing season. We don't get our plants in the ground until first week in June or sometimes last week in May. So, and we'll get our first frost in September. So,
I bet it'll be a hot, intense summer though, because they're having some of the highest temperatures recorded, I think, in the up north in Yukon and Northwest Territories.
Well, we've
We're
had
up to 100 degrees recently, Fahrenheit.
well, we're about averages, but we've had years where we don't have green grass. It's all brown because of lack of moisture. But this year we've had lots of rain, so everything's green, which is nice.
Okay, thank you, Lee. I don't know, I don't see any other questions or comments here, so.
Okay, I'll stop sharing then.
Is that black dog made out of cement or meat?
No, he's the neighbor's real dog.
Alrighty, does anyone else have something they would like to share for today's workshop?
Hello, Rick. Hello, everyone. May I share my camera and tell a story when I show something?
Sure.
Okay, I try, because last week it did not work in the other group.
Okay, I might have to do something here for the video. Allow panelists to start video. And
We're all having technical problems lately, haven't we?
I certainly have, yeah. Okay, Arno, just a second. We'll get you spotlighted and pinned and everything here.
How do I turn it around?
No, that we see you.
Yeah,
That's what you want to show.
Yes, here I am.
Okay.
I have made a drawing. I shared it last time in the class, but I can better share it like this. If this is the sun, and these are the layers of plasma density, when we go out, the plasma density goes more. We get more plasma density because the sun is taking a lot. And through this one, it releases, when you have your gravitational becomes magnetical, we have then this one, it's going to pull in between with it gravitational away, so it can release plasma. And with the Earth, it's the same. But when I go more here, the plasma environment is too high. So we cannot release the plasma to the environment. So inertia of dynamics slows down. When we're closing in, plasmatic is less. You see how closer you get, the less the plasmatic density is. And then because it's able to release on this side more to the environment, it starts pulling in more. And then it's pull itself to where the space is and it goes out again. And the reason why when it is here in a low dynamic state, it's going back to the sun, because the sun in its totality is also taken from the environment in space motion and then pulling the space around it back. When the space is expanding in a lower space plasma density environment, of space density environment, how we call it, and then it starts creating then when it's closer and more away. And if this one was giving, then our slokdarm, when I eat, it goes to my stomach. It should go through my heart, because if the liver was not there, the heart was the center of my existence, metastate existence. But because the liver pushed the stomach in that direction, the heart has shifted sideways. But what we eat is going not to the core of the physicality, but a layer in between. Have find a way to do it. And that is what I want to share, because when we use reactors, if we have a less plasmatic density environment, the reactors give more. And because they give more, they will take more. And if we have more plasmatic density in the environment, it will jam. Because when it was here, it has created the stronger motion in this direction. And when it's here, it cannot release very good, so it slows down. And that is what I wish to share. That is what I tried to explain 2 weeks, and I could not explain it in the last movies. But then it becomes very clear why entities become dynamic and when not, when the sun is shining. Because when the sun is shining and the earth is shining, like 2 shades falling together in one image, we have here like going like this one is going like this. So then we have more dynamics around here. And because the plasma density in the earth is lowering, then the water is able to release and becomes dynamic and goes from the gravitational off. And then when it receives enough plasma density again, the water becomes quiet and falls back to the earth. And the reflection of it is the heat and the cold. But it's a symptom of, and that was what I wanted to share, that maybe some of us can use it in how we understand things. Because here use a gravitational cross, you see? And this is the layer of the sun. And it's releasing like this. And now we can see they have made an experiment. I will share it later. In space to cool down an element to try to make it a condensate, because they have all different names for it. And if you look to that, you see that when it's colder, it's not able to release. You see the echo exactly in this shape going outwards, because it's not able to release. It's too cold. When you create cold, you create a higher plasmatic environment, but we did not know before. Okay, thank you. How do I stop video?
You should have a stop video button there somewhere, or.
Oh wait, I want to show you one thing. I think that is okay. Then we go to this, so we know if we have less plasma, we have energy. So if I take plasma out of the Gans starts becoming more dynamic. And the space gap will take from here and will deliver it down and to the microhelium network of the metastate, I presume. It will be able to be received from the Gans again. And I can use a coil to take from it. But if I create this and I take from it, I don't give to it, I take from it, I create more negative energy in space. And when I want to release it, I put it in like this. Then I give it back, and then the dynamics goes down, because we can create conditions in space that we have oxygen in a spaceship before metastate. So we can also bring the space back and play with the space inside this room and make the metastate hold it. Otherwise, and then I think this is going to be the light. I was making this for, I've created this one, zinc oxide aminos. They are not colliding energy. So I thought if I take from it with my hands, it has to start become more dynamic, because my hands is around it. And I put this one on, the light stays on. But this will I make in the future, try to make it, because this is a part of my project I have explained in the class for the fridge. and the differential controlled regulator. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Arno.
I tried to stop the movie.
Right, see, how can I do that?
Maybe you can do this. I don't
Yeah,
think it's
I
possible.
probably can. There we go.
Thank you.
All right, any questions for Arno? All right, we'll carry on then. Oops. Okay, does anyone else have something they would like to present? I see Johnny, you have your hand up, but I don't know if that was from earlier or if you have something you want to show.
Rick, ¿puedo hacer el share ahora? ¿Compartir? John?
John, can you?
Yeah, my mic wasn't open. Can I share right now?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yes.
Ok, tengo que abrir la cámara.
I've got to open my camera.
¿Y me podéis ver?
Sí, habría que cambiar la imagen. We have to change it. Small image. There we are.
Ok, quiero mostrar después de un mes, porque el mes pasado he hecho la presentación del oasis y ahora voy a hacerlo otra vez. La vegetación ha alcanzado ya algunos de ellos más de 2 metros.
Here I want to show you after a month. I showed you a month ago what I had made, and as you can see, the plants, some of them have grown over 2 meters high.
Aquí son los sistemas con los infinites y los Gans, que ya sabéis.
Here you got the infinites, and the Gans is up top on the poles.
Aquí la lavanda y que tiene ya 1 metro de altura.
Here you have some lavender that's 1 meter high. Bien alto, ¿eh? La lavanda nunca he visto así de alto.
Sí, John, pero todo aquí. Mira, que se ve enfrente es el apio, apio de monte, que tiene 2 metros y pico.
Here, you can see, I mentioned that I've never seen the lavender so high. It's over 1 meter high, and he has some different herbs he puts in the food. They grow up to 2 meters high.
Y estos son lila que me encantan. Y mira. Pero la lavanda vamos a recortarlo dentro de poco y de cuando utilizamos la plasma hemos recortado el año pasado 3 veces.
In the next few days, we'll cut the lavender, and last year we cut the lavender 3 times in the year. ¿Haces alguna esencia de lavanda con el agua de Gans?
Sí, hago, pero también con el miel. Aquí es la ortiga que tiene 2 metros. Es más alta de como yo. Mira.
Sí, lo que no me acuerdo son traducir ortiga a inglés, no me acuerdo los nombres. Yeah, you could see the different heights of the plants, the way they grow. In fact, I asked him about the lavender, and he says, yes, he mixes it together with honey and Gans water.
Pero esa vez la lavanda ha alcanzado como nunca antes.
This year, lavender has grown enormous.
Y claro que se vean los campos que están funcionando.
And you can see how the different plants are growing.
Así, y voy a pasar un poco y después mostrar lo que hace un mes tenía unos 10 centímetros y ahora tiene 1 metro dentro de poco. Mira, aquí es poleo menta, que también tiene 1 metro.
Here I show you some mint that's grown 1 meter high.
Wow, qué aroma.
What a nice aroma.
Y esta también es una planta medicinal que normalmente crecen a unos 50 centímetros. Aquí ya tiene 1,5 metros.
These are medicinal plants that normally grow 50 centimeters high. And
El
here they're
humano,
already at 1.5 meters.
wow. Pero mira que se puede ver, así como así.
¿Y tu vecino qué dicen? Esa selva, ¿para qué sirve?
Pero ya no pasa nada, John, porque saben que son plantas medicinales y le gustan y le pidan algunas cosas, así que es todo ok.
Ya se acostumbraron.
Sí.
Al loco de Gianni. I asked him about his neighbors. What do they think? This crazy Gianni growing all these plants.
Mira, aquí. Esto es lo que he mostrado el mes pasado, que tenía como 10 centímetros.
Last
Y
month I showed you this. They were about 4 inches high, and you can see it now.
el topinambur y la flor de girasol.
Sunflower and topinambur, which I'm going to
Y,
forget
y-
what that is.
y dentro de poco, casi vamos a ver el mes que viene, los vecinos ya no ven nada que hay dentro.
In a few days' time, my neighbors won't be able to see into the garden anymore.
Aquí tiene 1,5 metros.
This is already 1.5 meters high.
Si os acordáis del mes pasado que pequeñas serían y ahora mira, en un mes.
As you may recall, last month they were very small plants, and look at them now.
Y aquí, bueno, se ve a los vecinos.
Y los infinitos colgados ahí.
Sí, claro, como he dicho, el perímetro está cubierto todo.
We could see the infinites hanging from the wires up above. All
Mira
along
que-
the perimeter.
Mira qué hoja.
Look at these leaves.
Eso normalmente crece de altura unos 30 centímetros y lo que hace, a ver, si te acuerdas cómo se llama.
No tengo. No. De agricultura, los nombres para mí son muy escasos.
Y mira cómo
These
hace.
plants normally grow 30 centimeters high, and look at them now.
Y aquí es el ajo de 1,5 metros.
This is garlic of 1.5 meters tall.
Pero mira cómo está haciendo, de aquí va a hacer las semillas.
Look at the way it curls up, and here we'll have the new seeds.
El bambú que ya ha empezado a crecer y tiene 3 metros.
Here you can see the bamboo, 3 meters tall.
Bueno, creo que se ve. También vamos a hacerlo en la próxima semana, lo de Nico.
And next week we'll show you a garden at Nico's place.
Y todo lo
Right,
que
it's growing.
Eso quería hacerlo y dentro de un mes voy a hacerlo otra vez para que se vea cómo va evolucionando todo.
In a month's time, I'll show you again so you can see how it evolves. Las pobres flores quedan escondidas entre las hojas.
Sí, pero mira cómo
Sí, lindo.
parecen escondidas, pero mira qué belleza.
Uh-huh. I was telling him the flowers are hidden between all the greenery. And
Porque
so
ha elegido su posición y así se queda de maravilla todo.
this is the way they grow and they look marvelously.
Y aquí lo que hemos puesto hace 2 semanas.
This we have produced this 2 weeks ago.
Y también algunos tomates. Aquí antes tenía maderas y he liberado el sitio para sembrar.
Here we've sown some tomatoes. I used to have some wood here and we cleaned it up and sown tomato seeds.
Ok, esto quería compartir hoy y gracias.
This is what I wanted to share with you today, and thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Johnny, for the update on your lovely garden. It's always good to see. Any questions for Johnny?
More of a garden, it's a forest.
It's a jungle.
Yeah.
Forest jungle, yeah. Amazing the difference. Johnny, I have a question. Do you ever do weeding? Do you pull some plants sometimes, or do you always let them grow?
Gianni, ¿llegas a sacar los yuyos o lo dejas que crezcan?
Algunas de ellas le estamos cortando las hojas para regalar y para secar para las plantas medicinales.
No, pero él pregunta por los yuyos de plantas foráneas.
No sé qué es eso. Por
Yuyos
nombre.
son plantas que no son lo que vos plantaste, que crecen entre las otras plantas.
Pues no, siempre están aquí. No sacamos
Los
nada de
deja
las.
así. He doesn't take any of those plants out. He leaves them all to grow.
Right.
amongst each other.
No such thing as a bad weed, I guess.
He's the only bad weed.
Well, he makes use of everything, it seems. So.
Yep.
No es necesario sacar nada porque cada una de ellas encuentra su posición.
It's not necessary to take any of the plants out because each one of them finds their position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tú eres el único diablo, Gianni.
¿Por qué, John?
¿Por qué haces todo ese lío con las plantas? Metes la cuchara en todos lados.
Sí, pero cuando estás dentro de un oasis
Ya sé, te estoy tomando el pelo, Gianni.
ya
Un
lo
poco
sé.
de humor hay que poner a la cosa, sí.
Sí, he comprendido, John. Pero quería decir que cuando estás dentro del oasis, como he dicho antes, ya no tienes hambre, comemos muy poco. ¿Por qué estamos alimentados de los campos de aquí?
A mí me pasa lo mismo con el agua acá. I was telling you, he's the only devil that's amongst all those lovely plants. And he says he doesn't feel hungry at all with all being amongst those plants. And I've said that I got the same impression here with all my plasma water. Just drink my mate all day.
Sí, pero también aquí tenemos 3 tanques como he mostrado antes, de cada uno de 1000 litros.
Sí,
Con la
lo mostraste la semana pasada, creo.
Sí, sí.
Sí, lo mismo pasa acá. La cantidad de energía que tenemos con el plasma es tremenda.
Sí, es una maravilla, así que gracias al señor Keshe para regalar esta tecnología y gracias a vosotros a todos.
Thank you all, and thanks, Mr. Keshe, for giving us all this technology. And as I've shown you before, I have 3 1,000-liter tanks that accumulate all the water. And I've got the same impression here with all my Gans waters, and we practically don't need any feeding. You feel so energized. And the people that come along here to fetch the water, they get the same impression.
So, John, can you show us your facilities? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I've got the tank where I produce 500 liters a day of Gans water. I'll look for the pictures and show them. If you haven't seen them before,
Yeah, please.
I'll look out for them.
You're going to look for those now, you mean, John?
Yes, I hope to find them soon.
Okay.
I'll be a couple of minutes.
All right.
So
In the meantime, I'll share.
Yeah, go share something else.
I wanted to show the Keshe Gans Environmental Balancer. That's a new product in the Keshe Foundation store. As you can see in the pictures, it's a little windmill thing similar to what Lee showed earlier. Looks like they might be 3D printed vanes on that unit too, Lee. And so you can see it has the vanes on the top. There's some sort of bearing in the middle part. And on the bottom is the two-piece Gans ball that has an O-ring for the two halves. Probably has a screw thread in the bottom as well. That larger fitting on the bottom usually has threads and a little cap that screws in. So you can put the Gans of your choice in it and mount it onto a fence or a wall or a door, your car maybe. I don't know how it would do at 60 miles an hour, but it should be good for up to hurricane winds. Nice little unit, 29.99 euros, 30 euros. That seems reasonable. Okay, there's a couple of other new products as well. There's the Plasma Care Gans soap bar. Practical and time efficient, this stress-free combo is all you need for a plasmagical experience with the new handmade Gans soap bars. Some pictures. we have the Keshe Gans Capturing Unit Home Edition. So it's a smaller version of the larger one that's used for maybe in a city or a larger environment. This is the home version. It has the automatic valve system on it and pumped and so on. So you're able to drain your GANs from these units by just pushing a switch. And for those that aren't familiar with this idea, it will help capture CO2 in the atmosphere and actually helps with decontaminating the environment as well. Next, we have the Keshe Gans Levitating Moon Lamp. Gently shake the moon lamp to distribute the inner GANs materials. The light passing through the layer of well-distributed GANs in the moon and its platform will bring out the plasma fields and create a balanced environment in your home or in the office. That's very nice. It's got the Keshe Foundation logo on there and so on, and floats almost an inch high, 3/4 of an inch, 15-20 millimeters. €199. And there's also other levitating things. This is pretty sweet. The Keshe Gans Levitating UFO Speaker Lamp. With free shipping. Comes in 2 different styles, either the I think there's a black version and silver version. It's Bluetooth, so it works with phones, iPads, music players, rotates, levitates. About 13 centimeters in diameter, the UFO, 13 centimeters. Okay. So that again is €199 for those who are interested in such a device. I'm definitely interested. I wouldn't mind having that. A couple of other things here of note. The Keshe Gans One Cup, One Life. It's the cup with the parts, basically. For the One Cup, One Life, you can see the coils in there. And you can create, with 2 of them, you can create the your cups of life into the cup of man and so on. You can have either doubles or cup of man set up. You see 2 individual cups here. And so on. €30. Includes the set of 3 metal elements with connectors, as well as the cup. It's kind of a fancy looking cup. Quite nice. The logo as well. What else we have? Well, we have the some packages. Here's the complete plasmatic 1 cup 1 life package for yourself. Includes the 1 cup 1 life setup, cup of life 1, cup of life 2, the Gans 1 cup 1 life suit, which is got some sort of liner inside, so you can actually soak it with Gans waters and basically save yourself with virus condition. I think it's an excellent idea. Perfect to keep you warm and keep you ready to take on the virus, it seems. 129 or 130 euros for that package deal. And there's another package deal we'll have a look at here, which is the soap bars, the cup of life 1 and 2, cup of man, and levitating UFO speaker lamp, and the 1 cup 1 life suit. It's a pretty big package. And that is 400 euros. That pretty much would outfit you for whatever is happening. And finally, this peace package is a nice deal as well, with the Keshe Gans environmental balancer, the levitating UFO speaker lamp, and the Gans levitating moon lamp, and the memory foam contour pillow. Good deal for 500 euros. Okay, well, those things are available now at the Keshe Foundation store. So people that are interested and would like to do so can have a look at the Keshe Foundation store, which the link is on the main Keshe Foundation website page, or at store.keshefoundation.org. Okay, any comments or questions about that? Riley says, beautiful. Dr. Keshe says there's something special about the soap. He did mention something about that, you know, other than the Gans that's used or whatever. There's something else special about the soap. Says the lamp is something I'm very excited to have in my home. I like the one with the speaker. Cups are perfect and simple to use. The cups and the suits are a wonderful kit for everyone. Great site. Thank you, Riley. Yeah, it's encouraging to see some nice quality products like that available. All right, what else do we have? John, are you able to show your thing yet?
Yes, I picked some of the pictures and evaluate what
All right.
many of you have already seen, but it gives the other people ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share.
Oh, just as a note, before you share there, or while you're sharing, Angelica says in the chat, my suit arrived yesterday, but right now we have hot days with 30 degrees Celsius, so I will try it when it's cooler. Yes, it'll definitely be warm, I would think, in that suit. But on the other hand, it might be more like it might be cool and really hot weather and warm and cool weather. You could experiment. Okay, John, what do you got here for us?
Well, this is what I started with, is a 50-gallon tank cut down the middle. I had half a tank. That would be about 100 liters of water I used to produce. You see all the Gans producing the fields there inside the water. This was
So,
what?
okay, just to be clear, we're seeing the inside of this. The blue is the inside of the tank, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
We got some copper Gans also, but they're in enclosed bottles, as you can see here. And all the white stuff are the CO2 and zinc oxide Ganses producing the fields.
So you keep the tops off of them, correct? And then you fill
Exactly,
some
yes, they're in
water.
contact with the water, so it'll produce the water in a much faster way.
But you won't lose the GANs so easily because
No, I haven't. They've been there for what, over 4 years, and I haven't lost a gram of GANs at all. And I've got, I've moved all these bottles into a bigger tank. I'll show you now. This one, 500-liter tank. Got the tap 30% up above floor level. The Ganses are down below. And here you've got a funnel made out of a cut bottle and some marbles there to produce vortexes also, give it an extra kick in energy.
We're not seeing a change of the screen yet, I don't think. We're still on 0701.
Yeah.
Might have to reshare in order to get the next.
There we are.
There we go. Yep. So say again what you said about that.
Well, I started with this blue tank, which was about 80, 90 liters of water, and I went up to this 500-liter tank. I have the same Ganses I had in the other tank. I put them down on the bottom of this tank. And now I've got this tap where I extract the water for bottling. I'll show you the bottles right now. This is a mess I have in my poor kitchen. It looks more like a lab, and the library also is part of it, is full of books and what have you. And here you can see below the tap, there's a funnel made out of a cut up bottle full of marbles to give it an extra kick in energy to the water that's being poured out. Here you can see this transparent pipe gives me an idea of the level of the water, and it goes pink. I don't know if it's some reaction between the plastic and the plasma water or what, or is it an effect of a hydrogen, some funny effect there. This is part of the people who were over there in Brasilia when I went last November. This is all the bottling I do continually. You can see the tank here on the left where I pour the water out. I've got those trays so I don't wet all the floor because I've got a wooden floor, so I got to watch out. Every now and again I spill a hell of a lot of water there. Gansify the whole place. Here's another view. Here are some more people in Brasilia showing off products, the paint pens and what have you. And this is filling a 20-liter container with a Gans water. That's about it. And well, I use, I got natural fountain water, beautiful water here, which I receive from 200 meters away with a pipe I've got that brings it all along. It pours into a tank where I've got the first Ganses there treating the water, get rid of the bit of the dust that may be accumulated in the water. It goes up to the roof of our house into a second tank. We've got some more Ganses there. And then I've got this water in the whole of the house, and I've got a valve that controls the level of the water in this gray tank, which is replenishing the water as I go filling the different containers for the people that come along continually. I've got about at least 30 to 50 people that come along every day to fetch water. My production must be about between 200 and 500 liters a day.
What keeps the people coming, John? Tell us what experiences they might have had.
The experiences if they got rid of many ailments from arthrosis, arthritis. I've even got a neighbor that she was blind from one eye ever since she was 12. And after 50 years and drinking 2 months drinking this water, she recuperated her eyesight. So that's just about the most marvelous evolution I can talk about.
That's incredible. She had no other treatment or changes other than the Gans water.
Exactly. You can imagine.
Wow.
She had toxoplasmosis, is a cat's fever, when she was 12, and she's 60 right now. And you can imagine what treatment could she do after 50 years.
She must be pretty
happy. 2
happy.
months drinking water, she recuperated her eyesight. Yeah.
So what Gans is it in that water then? I mean, what
typical
feels?
Ganses are just CO2 and zinc oxide and a bit of copper, which you've seen in a small container with which is closed. I've got the copper Gans enclosed, so it won't touch the water. You only got a bit of the fields, and the rest is what I've showed you at the beginning. Like,
yeah. Okay. Yes.
Are you creating different fields between the different containers there? Different levels and distances create different fields.
May I ask you something, John?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you go a little bit deeper to when that child became blind and she came to you? Can you explain what you did inside you when you knew you're going to give her the Gans? Maybe some of us. That is important. That is.
Yeah. Well, my idea was to help.
Otherwise, they only hear the Gans and they think, "Wow, the Gans is doing it." But you have done something together with the Gans.
Well, my idea was to help the people out. Nothing is special. Just my way of being is helping the people continually. So that's my way of living. And in fact, this lady came along after a couple of months, and she brought me this 500-liter tank and said, "No, you can now produce some more water there." And now got another bloke brought another tank along, so I got a second tank, which if I got necessity, I'll put it beside this other one and continue producing more water. But we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. I think we're going to have so many changes. We haven't got the foggiest idea what we're going to do in the next month or two. So we just have to wait and see what happens. Imagine all our extraterrestrial friends coming along, as Mr. Keshe said last week. In fact, I've been expecting this for over 20 years. I've known a lot of this for over 20 years. And in fact, 15 years ago, I had this idea of producing what we call Gans water. Now, I knew it as super ionized water 20 years ago. And this was my idea of producing waters. And now I've sort of come through with my dreams of helping people out. In fact, I found the papers I produced 16 years ago. I presented over to the North American Embassy, but then nothing came out of that. But I'm going to photocopy them, and I may show them over to you. My project that I produced, 16 years ago, I think it was 2004. In fact, I think in 2004, Mr. Keshe wasn't available to us then. But I already had known about these waters 22 years ago and got the idea of doing this. So I must be on the track somewhere or other. In fact, there's not much more I can do because the value of our money is about 5 to 10 times less than what the values you work over there. So we've got sort of live off cents here. My pension fund is about 100 or 120 euros a month. Can't do much with that. But we managed to, we've learned through the different crises we've gone through here in Argentina every 10 years. We've learned how to manage with whatever we've got at hand. And that's the way we live and we learn. I don't know if you got any other questions or ideas.
I got a little question. Have you thought about putting things in different formations, like star formations or tetrahedron or whatever, you know, these, what do you call it, sacred geometry formations?
Well, I haven't got much time, and I've attended all the different teachings all day.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
10 people. I've got some about 10 or 15 friends that have learned all this beside me, and they're helping me out with some WhatsApp config. What do you want to call it? Groups they've managed to create with all the Spanish-speaking people, because I haven't got much time and I don't even know. I'm still learning how to use a cell phone, so I imagine what I've got at hand.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm not much good with all this brand new technology, the cell phones.
But you know about the star tetrahedron, do you?
Yes, yes. Well, I've worked with pyramids for the last 50 years.
Ah, okay, okay.
So I've got an idea of what all those energies are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Can you share a bit of your ideas about it?
No, I haven't got any pictures, but
no, but you can verbally
yeah,
share
I can talk about it. Because I used to live in Buenos Aires, which is the capital city of Argentina, and I moved over to where I am right now is 1,000 kilometers away, because this place is very much more in a natural way of living. So I decided to bring up my family here, and experimented with a lot of pyramids. But that was when I lived alone for about a year and a half, and then I brought my family along. So when you're sort of teaching your family different things, you haven't got much time for experimenting, have you? Got to work, produce money, and keep the house going. But that's not quite easy, is it? But right now I'm retired. I've only got my youngest daughter with me. So I've got enough time to attend all the teachings and get the Spanish-speaking groups going. Thank God now we're getting some help from younger people. Ursula's also sort of moved out of the Universal Council to see if some younger people come in and help out with the Spanish-speaking group. But we got our hands full with all the things going on. And we're 23 different countries in the Spanish-speaking group, so you can imagine got many people coming along.
It's a lot.
And we've got
John?
the Brazilians, the Portuguese-speaking people right next door. I've only got them here 50 kilometers away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How is the coronavirus issue in your area, John?
In my
Argentina?
area, we don't have practically any cases at all. We've had about, half a dozen cases in this province, which is about 250 miles long. It's a sort of a horn where if you look up on Google Maps, you find Misiones is right between Paraguay and Brazil, the southern part of Brazil. It's a sort of a green horn. It's all very nice green forests.
How about the rest of Argentina?
The rest of God, we've got just about a bit of everything, from mountainous region in the Andes down to the Antarctica.
No, I meant in terms of the coronavirus.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of coronavirus in Buenos Aires, which is the capital city down in the middle of Argentina. Okay. And we have 4 or 5 big cities where they've got quite a bit of coronavirus. But we've only had about 1,000 deaths up to now, which is, compared to the rest of the countries, is just about nothing. We've had 20 deaths a day on car accidents, and we're only having about 8 coronavirus deaths a day. So that's, if we replaced the car accidents by coronaviruses, we've gained a hell of a lot.
It's probably less car
accidents. Looking at it, yeah.
With people having to be at home, there's way less
we've got
practically
no accidents whatsoever. Yeah, we're all sort of locked down here. Where I am, we are not all that much of a lockdown because it's open country. I'm in the city. We're about 70,000 people, but it's very open and green, and you got a lot of greenery around. We're not all closed up in flats or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Plus, seeing the cities are the centers of the action of the coronavirus, especially in the old people's homes and rest homes and care homes.
Yep.
That's where it's really hit in Canada. And expose the big weakness that way, that we don't take care of the older population the way that we should.
Yeah, we're getting this problem all over the place, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
John, I'm wondering if you're having any of the kind of thing like we're having here, which is a lot of just sort of people dying in their sleep, that kind of thing. Have you noticed any of that or heard any?
No, we don't have that, but in old people's homes, yes, but not very many. But about every 5 or 6 days, they find a home where they've sort of got somebody that took a virus over to them, and they have to evacuate the people. But we were 45 million people here in Argentina, and we've only had, in the last, 5 months, we've only had about 1,000 deaths. So that's.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is more of. So are they just doing the lung test? Because I know here they're just doing the lung test. If you don't get the lung one, like they would technically probably say I never had the coronavirus because I had the one that causes all of this, terrible bone pain, but I never had a fever.
We haven't had those strong coronaviruses yet. We've had the very basic. We're out, as the Pope said when he was put up as a Pope. He's Argentine. He's come from the lowest part of the earth, the end of the earth, and so the coronavirus takes quite a bit of a time to come down here. And we're on the southern part of the hemisphere, so it's just like Australia. Also, Australia, I think, has been hit up in a stronger way. New Zealand is pretty much isolated. They've had few cases also, but not very many. It all depends on how we're controlling our frontiers. We've got Chile right on the other side of the Andes, and they've had it a pretty hefty way. They've had a lot of deaths and pretty badly hit. All on the western side of the Andes, just like Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, they've had it very hard, in a very hard way.
I was surprised to read that it had reached Aboriginal groups that are deep in the jungle and
they're in Brazil.
Little contact. Yeah, and they were actually affected, and it makes you wonder how the virus spreads, and it really lends to that field theory rather than actual particles of virus as such, perhaps.
Well, if you remember Mr. Keshe telling us, it's a field. It's not like a little bug that comes along. If that field just grows by, or it's even in the meat, because we're having some cases in different parts of the world where you get the virus in the meat, and you get people getting hit by the corona through the meat.
Well, China just canceled the poultry shipments to China from Canada yesterday because of that. And also there's major plants like in England now, they're having trouble with the, what do they call them? Slaughterhouses, basically, where they cut up.
In the States also.
There's like 6,000 people work in this one place, and about 1,000 of them have the virus apparently, so they had to shut the whole works down.
And if you recall, if all this started with the pig swine fever in China 8-10 months ago, it all has to do with meat. The way the virus tried to go into the meat.
Yeah.
It's a very hungry virus.
Yeah, and we've also got to interpret what Mr. Keshe is trying to tell us all the time, no? The different ideas, and he's spilling so much information. We just gather about 50% of what he's saying, if we do gather 50% of what he's saying, because we've got to listen to it so many times, and we haven't got the physical time to do so, have we?
Yeah, and he says things in passing sometimes, and 2 or 3 weeks go by and I'll read it in the mainstream news somewhere that these new changes in the way the virus affects children, or the way the virus affects different organs and so on, comes out in the news days or weeks after we hear about it from Mr. Keshe about the latest transitions that are happening. So he gets good information, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I
And if you
posted oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Well, I posted an article yesterday in one of the Telegram groups. They're actually using the same word that we use. Like we, in one of our meetings, it could have even been this meeting, we used the word like that it seemed diabolical and insidious. And they actually had an article, and they used those same phrases to describe the coronavirus, the way that it hides, and the way that
Yes, yes.
yeah, it was really interesting.
I've seen those kind of headlines recently. Just that frame that same way.
If you look through the first videos Mr. Keshe made in the beginning, you're the specialist, aren't you, Rick? You find so much information that was given to us then, and we didn't even have a clue of what he was saying.
Yes, definitely. If we went back and listened to, well, virtually any of the previous Knowledge Seekers workshops, we would pick up all kinds of little hidden details that we may have missed the first time through. And probably if you went through half a dozen times, you would still find little nuggets of information in there.
It's really interesting to go back to those, because that was right when I joined as a student, was right in the beginning of just before the Corona thing happened. And my the teacher that I had before, Mr. Keshe, who was another spaceman, warned me in 2013 about a virus that was actually a parasite that was going to come and really wreak havoc on humanity. And then he warned me about the Black Plague. So this was about 8 or 9 years ago that he warned me about these things. So I'm still kind of waiting. Like, oh yeah, well, the coronavirus is kind of bad or whatever, but we might as well get used to it and prepare for the Black Plague. Just like what Mr. Keshe was saying in the very beginning of the coronavirus thing, that it is probably imminent, that we'll have a resurgence of the Black Plague again. Not to be a downer.
Well,
not at all, not at all.
Well, the thing is, that's what Mr. Keshe said too, that we need to learn. We need to learn how to navigate through these even stronger viruses that will inevitably be coming our way, especially if we meet up with universal community and others. And it'll be important how we deal with it, and how we deal with it with others. Right now we're basically, as humans, scared of the other humans around. I was in a store yesterday, and I was talking to this other person. We were about 1.5 meters apart, and this woman came down the aisle, and she sort of hesitated, and she looked at me, and then I backed up a step, and she said, "Excuse me," and went through in the typical Canadian way. We say sorry, and actually that's what she said, was sorry, and then proceeded through, as if that space between us was not enough space for her to go through. And before the coronavirus, of course, it would have been The only time you say sorry is when you bump into somebody in the supermarket lineup. You bump elbows or something. We always say sorry as Canadians. It's a bad habit. Let's say it's not all cultures do that, but in Canada we're just all apologetic about nudging someone. But now that perimeters become a, instead of the elbows nudging, we need more elbow room. We have our elbows have extended out a meter to each side, and if anyone comes within that zone, it feels like they're bumping us. So we say sorry even when we come close now. So this is kind of what are we going to say when someone from some other world comes passing through? And what will they say to us? Will they want to keep a 20-meter distance, let's say? Or will we want to keep a 20-meter distance from them? Or will we have to isolate from each other and only communicate through Zoom? Or what's that going to be like?
We've had a couple of cases of very aggressive people that have even, they were walking by a car and the person in the car was all closed up in his car, but didn't wear the mask. And they just broke the glass open and hit the person, telling them, oh, they've got to wear their mask on. Imagine breaking the glass or the door glass just because he wasn't wearing a mask, just to hit him.
Should wear a hockey goalie mask in that case.
Yeah,
wow.
It's incredible. You got all sorts of people reacting so many different ways.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the mask thing. It's so comforting. It seems like everybody else is kind of having a hard time with the mask, but all my life I felt like people were wearing masks, and like I was the only person not wearing a mask. So I feel like this is my opportunity to get to wear a mask in life and kind of feel a little less, raw and exposed as a soul. I don't know, I'm finding it kind of fun.
Yeah.
You're feeding your soul now with the CO2.
That's right. And the Gans, my mask is always wet with Gans, and I'm just having the time of my life.
Right. Well, in a way, our face mask normally, without the mask, our face mask, like our skin, usually gives away our emotions and so on, and we're kind of exposed, like you say. With the mask on, someone could be smiling or sneering or grimacing or whatever behind the mask, and it's hard to tell other than if the eyes are lighting up and they look really happy, then they're probably smiling. But it's enabled to communicate without having to manifest the face mask, let's say, our normal twisted things that, are smiling and all of that, that are the indicators that we normally use for communicating. They're no longer there. So we have to rely more on our spidey senses to, evaluate who we're up against here, what kind of being is behind that mask. Can we sense them instead of judging from their manifestations of their facial expressions? It's interesting.
By the way, Vaira, where are you from? India?
No, my body was born in Sweden, but I lived most of my life in India and Nepal voluntarily. So that's how it is.
Very nice natural places, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean that by the scenes behind your image.
Yeah, that's the very famous. Which one is that? Is that the stupa? It's a stupa. I think so. Yeah, it's a stupa. I have to check what I have there. Yeah, that's a stupa. Yeah, that's from 4 kilometers outside Kathmandu. There's this very famous Buddhist place called Bodinat, and that's the stupa in Bodinat. It's kind of my favorite spot on the planet, but I can't be there right now because everything is sealed off. So I'm in a village outside Kathmandu.
What's a stupa? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, it's similar to pagoda, maybe. You know pagoda?
So it's a structure, but do people go in it, or is it a
No,
ceremonial?
Usually they what do you call it, sir? They walk around it.
Circumvent it or whatever.
Circumvent it, yeah, exactly. They circumvent it.
Mm-hmm.
We call it kora in the Buddhist tradition. You do kora, you do one kora, you do one circle around.
Mm-hmm.
And you chant mantra, or you just try to feel the vibration of the place.
And is it at the top of a mountain or top of a hill?
No, actually, this one isn't. This one is. Once upon a time, it was in the field, and there's a story behind this specific stupa. And there was a smart lady who tricked one of the rulers of that area, and he got along with the trick, and he was forced to build that stupa to live up to the deal that they made. So he made that stupa, and then when people fled Tibet, the Tibetans fled Tibet, and they came to Kathmandu and to Bodha, this place called Bodhinath. They started to build buildings around because everyone wanted to be close to the stupa. So it has become really like a mecca for Buddhist people, especially Vajrayana Buddhist, Tibetan Buddhist people.
So would it be accurate to say that stupa creates an oasis effect around it, and people like to be near?
Absolutely.
They feel better, and the crops grow better, and
I would say they would, but there's no fields anymore because people build so many structures around it. So I wish we could take down all the structures and just make a park around it, but I don't think that's going to happen. But no, but it's every time I come back, for me it's like coming home. It's like going into the energy, and you're like, oh, I'm back. So that's my relationship to it. And yeah, and the rest of the time I try to spend in India. But then sometimes you have to go back to Europe and do things. It's like making money. Not so much, but now and then at least.
Enough to pull through.
Sorry?
Enough to pull through.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Enough to pull through. And but I must admit that I'm. It's funny because I remember when we started this many years ago, and I was living in Thailand by then. I thought that would be a good place for me to be close to India and close to Nepal, but none of these two countries in themselves. But it didn't work out. But anyway, I was trying for doing that for about 6 to 7 years. And I remember when the teaching started, I think, was it 2008 or 2009? When does it start, these teachings? With the blackboard.
With the blackboard, that would be probably a bit later, but I think the original, with the blackboard, yes, with the magnetic things and so on.
Yeah, magnetic things, and yeah.
I think around 2007 or 8 in there, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I remember that time, and it was amazing because I was looking for free energy sources, and that's how I kind of bumped into it. And I thought, because I had figured out like the only way we can, save humanity from those who want to control us is that we get free energy, so they can't use that against us, and from that perspective, build freedom for all people, so that money will have less influence. That was kind of my whole idea. And then I just bumped into Mr. Keshe one day, and I was like, wow, this is really good stuff. But my intuition said also that it's going to take some time before this comes to the point where I want to be, because I was more interested in the spiritual part of it. So yeah, and then came all these wires and magraphs, and for me it was a bit too much. So actually I gave up after a couple of years, sit. But you remember those teachings? I mean, it was 6 hours teachings, and you sat with your popcorn and your tea, and you tried to stay awake, getting through them. I mean, I remember that at least.
We were all attracted to this in the same way. I think we've all been behind those same ideas. If it was not the energies, it was the sanitation part or whatever.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. There was great things coming out. It was just that for me, because I'm not very good at wires and electronics. I mean, I know how to sit and meditate and be quiet and quiet my mind and things like that. But to do coils and coils inside coils and then put them in a caustic soda and blah 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 blah. I mean, it wasn't in my world. So I just like, okay, I'll just follow it as much as I can, and then came to a point where I was like, nah, this takes too much time in my life. It's going to sitting on this teaching for 6 hours 3 times a week. So yeah. But then I came back about a couple of months, a little bit before Corona. And I guess that was good.
So how do you find the later teachings that Mr. Keshe is doing with the soul teaching and so on now?
Yeah, it's spiritual teachings. It's really good. I mean, it's of course sometimes from my point of view, I wish it could be more specific techniques and methods, which I tried to ask one time. Didn't get that much of an answer, but anyway. And but I remember he gave a short teaching about how to breathe slow. It was when Asar had talked about her stuff with Sadhguru, this Indian guru. She didn't mention his name, but his name is Sadhguru, because actually I went to his ashram and I received some of his teachings there. I remember he also was commenting on that, and he talked about the breathing in slowly and how that would feed the soul and so forth. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's complete, but it at least gives us hints at least about these things. Yeah,
we've had Parvati Kurmar here several times also. He came along from over there. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No, I haven't.
He's an accountant, but every 6 months he goes to different parts of the world and teaches a spiritual teaching.
Yeah, I think, for me at least, has become like this. I was staying with a guru in South India for many, many years, on and off. Of course, I couldn't stay there all the time because I need to go back and make some money. But I was kind of gone for 4 months every year, just working, and then going back to India and Nepal and stayed around for about 8 months, and then went back again to Europe. I stayed with this guru for, I don't know how long, 17 years or something, on and off. And when he finally left this world, I thought, okay, I'm kind of done with gurus, I think. Now I just have to try to live the teachings. And I guess that's what happened since, or I tried since at least. So I'm not really looking for a new guru, to be honest. But it's nice to be inspired by different teachers. That's how I see it, at least.
You learn that you are your own guru, actually. And that's what
exactly.
they're trying to tell you the whole time.
You're right, and that's exactly what it's all about. But you can't really tell. I mean, you can tell a certain amount of kind of people that, but most people you can't tell that because they misunderstand it, and then they have another category.
Experience of it.
Yeah, but and then you have another category, which is like the ones that's been into the spiritual journey for a long time, and they kind of got stuck somewhere, and they talk about everything as, I mean, it's just an illusion. It's just an illusion. It's just an illusion. And then you got the opposite side. So, and it's none of it. From my point of view, it's neither an illusion or the pure reality. It's what Padmasambhava says. He says it's a natural appearance, and I think that's the best way to explain things. They have everything has its is inherited existence somehow. It's, you know, it's dependent on something. They also call it dependent origination. And that's how illusionary delusion is. So from that point of view, it's an illusion, but it is not an illusion from the point of view that we are actually experiencing what we are experiencing. So, yeah. I don't know how I came into that, but anyway, that's something that I found often happens when you talk to people who have been on the spiritual path for a very long time, but they become kind of passive. And I think that's what I like with this group of people here, with the Keshe people, and that there's people who really want to do something. They believe that they can do something. Thank you, Ursula.
Thank you, Varya. Yeah, I think we're all on the same track, one way or another. We're trying to get science and spirituality together.
Yeah, like it was once upon a time. Yeah. But I think we need to. I mean, let's continue where we were yesterday with this. I mean, I wasn't participating, but I was listening to the teachings yesterday, or teachings, the One Nation, One Planet thing, and I think we have to together continue this. What we can do and what we can do physically, and also we can do on an emotional, mental plane to make this manifest as quick as possible, to, like we said before, save as many people as possible from perishing. But I don't know how he's going to start, but that would be nice to do that, I think.
Well, I do have a little bit of news. I don't know how it fits into this, but I have contacted my head of state, the Sultanate, and he's willing to look at the peace treaty. So it's very likely that that we could be the first nation to sign the peace treaty.
Where are you, Brandon?
Well, I'm in America, but I was adopted by the indigenous people of America.
Ah.
So essentially, I'm in the empire, what would be called the old empire, or Almaroc, ALMAROC. And so I'm a citizen of the empire. I'm not a citizen of the United States. It was a long process. I just knew, that my soul belongs to the Creator, and so it never made sense to me that I could, belong to this. Once I found out that the United States was actually a corporation, I rather desperately tried to find a way to get out of the United States, because it was out of integrity with my soul to agree that somehow I belong to a corporation. So I eventually found who what the real sort of government of this land is, and I'm actually the first person of European Mozarabic descent to join their nation. So there was a house in the family of nations created for me and those who come after me, called the House of Day. So the House of Day has submitted to the Sultanate this offer of a peace treaty. And so I've notified Mr. Keshe, and it's really interesting to me, because I don't know if Mr. Keshe is even in a position of recognizing our nation, even though the United States recognizes our nation as a real nation. I've had to go to court. Mm-hmm.
There's some information on that. I've got in my hands right now the World Peace Treaty from July 24th, 2017 with the Cherokee Nation of Indians, who are actually the first nation to agree to the peace treaty, but they weren't accepted by Mr. Keshe because we weren't at that time accepting other than the accepted, designation of countries, basically, as national countries that would be at the table at the UN or whatever, not Aboriginal nations. But I think that has changed in the last few months or so. I believe he said that he now accepts Aboriginal nations as well. So the timing might be really good for that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Nice.
Yeah,
it
so
was,
the offer's out there, and so if he passes me a treaty, then I'll pass it to the Sultanate.
So I'm just funny with the wording here. You call it Sultanate when it comes to Native American nations too.
Yes. Well, the strange. It's a very strange thing that's happened. The Native Americans, like you're native to a place when you're born there. I'm a Native American because I was born here, but the Cherokees, the Navajo, the Lakota, they all are considered to be nations, but they're actually within the United States. That's why the United States has jurisdiction over them. They can tell them what they can do and what they can't do. But the nation that I belong to is the nation that the United States originally came into treaty here to be here. So it's a little different. So like the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was a treaty between my nation and England, with the United States as a party to the treaty. But it's I know that Mr. Keshe was kind of taught about the world and stuff like history through it seems like European schools. So
Definitely.
he probably wouldn't know about any of this. It's quite quite a hidden history. They want us to think that these people were savages here, but they had fantastic temples and lived in castles, and they didn't live in wigwams and teepees.
Okay, cool.
That was but it is what it is. The truth is, this is the time for the truth to come to light. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
But that's great. That's a great news. So what else can we do, people? What else can we do to make this happen?
Well, I think that the power of our souls, right?
Yeah.
That's the big one, but we have a way of manifesting that in terms of the weekly spraying that's going on.
Yeah, we're doing that too, yes.
Designated hours at noon Central European time on Sunday and 9 p.m. Is that what it is? Central
It was noon and now in 6 o'clock. 6 evening.
Right.
But anyway, no, I was thinking more, what being discussed yesterday in the One Nation, One Planet.
What do you mean specifically? What was discussed? Can you?
There was discussed about releasing the papers and or releasing the whatever it's called. Yeah, papers.
Scientific paper.
Yeah, exactly. Scientific paper. I mean, what can we do to support that, except on a soul level? Or I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm throwing out the question to make people.
We could imagine if we had the link to the paper right now, that it was published in a scientific journal, and we had the link to it, wow, what a great thing to share that would be. We could share that all over the place and get, you know, people interested in high places in that kind of situation. So that's kind of the high stakes game that we're playing right now in a way. And
But if
we
you bring
don't
it,
publish, pardon me, go ahead.
if we bring it down to a more basic level, you know, with the people, because this is all about money and power and influence and blah blah blah, you know, all that stuff that we don't play that league. I mean, if I would live in Italy, for example, I would somehow gather, if it's possible or not, but I would try to gather people who know how to, they have the protocols and they know how to cure, and look for people who are sick and say, okay, here's we can give you this treatment, you know, to do it, take it down to some kind of practical, down to earth teaching or sharing and teaching. I mean, I'm trying to do that here in Nepal. It goes very slow.
If you've got no credentials behind it, if you've got no scientific basis for it, scientific meaning in a published journal,
I agree.
Something that's, you know, duplicable by other scientists, and, you know, if they follow this formula, this should happen, and have them do more tests and more, you know, reports and that kind of thing, and really get the
I know, but let's go
rolling.
back. Let's go back again, because what I'm saying is that if you can get this to a people's level where people find that it works and they don't give a shit what's the reason for it
We
working,
already
they
have
just
done
want it
that
to
for
work.
years. We've done that for years and years, and we do that constantly. But just getting the people to do it one person at a time, and even if it's a million people, it doesn't make a dent on 7 billion, and it doesn't make a dent on the governments who maybe don't appreciate that kind of system, where they can't get a lot of tax money out of it. They can't get a lot of, like they do with pharmaceuticals. They have a great deal of pharmaceutical companies. They make a ton of money. Government makes a ton of money. Companies make a ton of money, and they pay taxes. Well, some do. And, you know, eventually we pay taxes. But it's got to be accepted amongst the professionals, and professionals do not take anecdotal stories or reports from just one corporation or whatever. They need to have universities that are doing, you know, some testing that's standardized testing that can be accepted in any scientific circles and so on. And that way we can get the scientific chat going. Right now, we've got really good grassroots chat. We've got grandmothers that are making their Gans waters. I've seen several 5-year-old kids that seem quite proficient at making Gans, and they knew what it was and what it does and how to spray it and where it's used and all of that. You know, 5 years old, and that's terrific. That's wonderful. But even seeing a video like that does not convince the hardest people of all to convince, which is somebody with a university mind that's so-called educated already in a certain way, and they refuse to accept that something could be so simple, so easy, and so remarkable in its effects, and so on and so forth. And they especially might refuse to accept the soul aspect of it, which is, you know, doesn't even have to get brought up, which is actually the more important aspect, and so on. So it's difficult because of the powers that be have a certain resistance, and part of that's built into the mainstream media, which is basically controlled by especially in North America, especially in the US, by the pharmaceutical companies, which are the main sponsors for these media.
Sorry, Rick. We all know that stuff. I mean, I'm not arguing against it. I'm just trying to look beyond it and then see what else we can do. That's what I'm talking about. And you mentioned the grassroots, and I think it's great. We have it. It's there, and we're waiting for the scientific people. But there's something. I just feel that there's something missing there, but I can't really put my finger on it. And
do you mean more in a spiritual way, or do you mean practical things we can do in terms?
And I of course, I'm always for the spiritual, but in this case, I think I'm more for the practical. I mean, of course, if we can sit down a group of 5 people and visualize and feel and so forth, this already happening. I think that's how you manifest things in this world.
Well, one thing we could do is, one thing we can do is that the letter has already come out from the Universal Council, and how many of us have sat down and actually sent it off to our various representatives and different people in government and so on, to prepare them for this release of the paper from the university and so on, which will get released one way or another, either through a prominent scientific journal, or if it doesn't get done there, then the Keshe Foundation will produce it or release it. One way or another, we'll have the paper that will be able to be a reference for those governments that are waiting for this, if they knew about it. But if they don't know about it, then they won't be waiting for it. So part of the work that we could do is set the scene in a way to produce that desire in the government. So what is it that they say they're coming up with this paper? Okay, well, let's see what they have. And they wait for it a bit, and hopefully it will exceed their expectations and be something they can work with. And it's something they're ready for at this time too. They're looking for any way out of this pretty nasty situation that they've gotten themselves into with the coronavirus and people being out of work and all kinds of stuff happening. So they're looking for solutions. And if we can suggest those solutions are coming in any way we can, whether it be from letters or emails or sending a love note from our heart or whatever it is that you find a way of giving to elevate those that are in that decision process and try to make a connection in some way. What else might we do?
I agree with that. That's basically what I've been doing here, is kind of leaving the door open, providing the remedy and seeing what happens. Like I have just people who have come recently. Their animals have had problems, and I think that there's a way that we can have a mindset that we can reach everybody, that we're prepared to reach everybody that comes our way needing help. And I also have a list of I can't mail things to officials because they won't even open my stuff because I'm not in their districts. But I can mail things to the doctors that I know and the people who know people who are running hospitals and things. So I think that's what I'm doing in the physical world to prepare for this paper, is preparing for having the ability to reach out to people that I can't really reach out to right now, because like you were saying, Rick, they doctors, they don't, if it's not in a journal, they're not going to read it, or if it's not official, they're not going to read it. So I think that we can it's an energetic sort of vibrational way of offering a solution to the world, and then the people who want a solution will more or less find us at this point, because I think most of us have pretty much reached our saturation point. We've already reached out to everybody that we could reach already, except maybe through sending the letter for those of us who can send a letter. So I think it is more of an energetic thing right now. And then once the scientific paper is put out, I think we will be able to reach a lot more people a lot more quickly. I mean, I know I have a lot of people that would be very interested in reading this kind of paper.
Yes, I agree.
I'm just pondering, I mean, they were quite successful, at least in the beginning, in Iran, with how they spread the knowledge to hospitals, and somehow, yeah, they managed to get through. Can't we kind of copy that, the way of doing it? That's what I'm thinking, I guess, right now.
Well, they got through, but they're also having issues.
Yeah, I know.
Because of
they got stuck.
Yeah.
It's all about. It's always about greed. That's the problem, isn't it? It's always about
Well,
greed.
if you don't go through the channels and supply that greed, or give everyone their cut, you might say, then you run into trouble with eventually. And especially if it's something that doesn't cost anything, therefore you can't charge a lot of taxes on it. You know, if it's every transaction's a penny and the government makes 10%, well, they're not making a lot. But if you have a, you know, $10,000 vehicle, every transaction they make $1,000, then it's a good deal
right.
for them.
Yeah.
So that's why they love to have people on ventilators, because they make the government or the hospital gets an extra $30,000, I think it is, per patient on a ventilator, as compared to not on a ventilator. They only get 10,000, I think it is, for a regular COVID patient. They get paid more for a COVID patient, so that encourages them to have COVID patients. And they get paid more for ventilators. That encourages them to put them on the ventilator. Unfortunately, 90% of the people on ventilators die, but they get paid for the death as well now. So this is a good deal for hospitals, but a good deal for the government. They'll get tax money and all that, of course, but it's not a good deal for the patients. So this is the reckoning, basically, that's sort of coming to the front here. You know, it's the same as the old people and how we treat them and so on. In Canada, we had the army go into the old people's homes to take over for the healthcare workers and try to figure out what's going wrong with so many people dying in the care homes. And they discovered all kinds of atrocious things going on, and people not being cared for, and so on and so forth. And they also contracted the coronavirus themselves. So I think over 100 of the 1,000 of the troops that were helping out also got coronavirus, and so on and so forth. So it's exposed through their help, though. It's exposed to the government, to the ordinary people, the flaws in our system, that we don't take care of people properly, and there's no checks and balances. They were thrown out the window a few years ago with lobbyists from the healthcare companies, the rest home companies, lobbied to get rid of the regulations. So they did, and now we have a lot of people getting sick probably because of that. So it's funny how things come around and become sort of transparent and exposed under these stressful conditions. And that's great, because that's when changes can happen, is when we can see what's going on. And once we see what's going on, it becomes obvious, okay, we have to make some changes. Even the tough guy premier of Ontario, who's, you know, this big ex-football, ex-possible drug dealer and everything else in life, tough guy, you know, for the province, but he sticks, you know, he's really there for the problem. Even he is moved to say that these changes must take place, and especially since his mother was one of the ones in the rest homes who was mistreated. But anyway, perhaps I digress with some of that, but that's part of what's happening. And I think it's important to sort of recognize that that's might be one avenue or aspect that we can focus on as knowledge seekers, is since 80 to 90% of the coronavirus deaths have occurred in the rest homes. The average age of coronavirus deaths is something like 85 years old. Then perhaps we can focus on how we can help alleviating some of that suffering going on in those homes. And what would that look like? Can we do some sort of program to introduce Gans products to the owners of those rest homes, for example? Maybe they would have do a group purchase, a group buy-in, and some of the technology which is known to make people feel better and live better and have better health. How could you go against that? So especially if we can show that proof with the university tested papers and so on, that'll be so nice. We've seen some of the proof already from the Iranian side, where they showed the nanotechnology microscope pictures, which are really cool. And we've shown them in this group a few times. And you know, the nanotechnology is the fastest growing aspect of science right now, and Iran is one of the top what do you call it, submitters of scientific papers about nanotechnology in the world. I think they're number 5 now and rapidly increasing even higher. They've gone from number 50 something to number 15 to number 5, all in the last few years. So they've got the credentials, they've got the knowledge, and they really like the pictures of the Gans technology, of the Gans material. And when they took the comment was something like that they understood just from seeing the structure, the nanostructure of this material, they could automatically think of hundreds of ways it could be used just from its the way it appeared in their. They got quite excited the way it appeared in their microscope pictures. There's special technology to take those pictures. Mendel says in the live stream, I think we need a business plan to go with the proposal with scientific facts of the technology before we can contact governments. A business plan. Well, that would be up to Mr. Keshe, I suppose. The idea is you make the connection with the government first, and then with the idea of agreeing to discuss the business plan aspect of it. I think that would be with Mr. Keshe or members of the management of the Keshe Foundation.
Why think of it as a business? We've got to get rid of that thought. Get rid of the concept of money.
Well, who's going to set up the factories to make the GANs in mass produced and so on and so forth?
Yeah, but we've got all that in our brains. But think of pre-Columbus America. They didn't think of businesses or whatever. Each one of them did their job they thought best and collaborated with civilization. And in fact, the civilization that was found here was much more advanced than what Europe was then.
Yeah, and I do have to say that, you know, in the talks with my nation, you know, that is where we're going. And I haven't really told, you know, really exposed to this group where it all fits in, because it's kind of complicated to talk about, but we certainly are discussing exactly that, about doing things the way that we've always done them here, and bringing the Keshe technology into it and really solving all of our own problems. I mean, it's a great idea and a way to talk to the United States about, you know, solving problems, but it's just been my experience in life that they just kind of create problems. They don't really solve them. And as far as the business plan goes, I mean, their cafeteria in DC loses millions of dollars a year. I work. I mean, how do you not make money in a cafeteria in DC? So, but also, I work with a group here that we have made numerous offers to the U.S. Forest Service to turn the Forest Service from a huge liability money spending machine into a massive money making machine, and they are not interested. They are not interested. And we have the machinery, we have the equipment, we have the means of creating it en masse. We were willing to give them equipment to basically turn, you know, to go into the forest and come out of the forest with bags of pellets to heat people's homes, and the means of creating charcoal and invigorating the forest right there, and they are just not interested. So just, you know, just so you guys know, so we're really, as a nation, you know, we're taking things into our own hands. My plan is basically to ignore the United States to death and go about my business of creating the kind of world I want to live in.
Yeah, everybody goes nuts about the dollar, but the dollar has no backing. So it's all fictitious. In
That's
fact,
right.
197 central banks are owned by the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. They're the owners. We have nothing, but
That's
we
true.
got our integrity.
Isn't that the reason why we need to get away from the whole idea of having to support ourselves with money? So that they don't have any more influence over us. That's how I see it.
Yes. Make do with what you have. Here in Argentina, 20 years ago, we lived through a couple of years where just any money was printed with different names and had no backing whatsoever, but everybody respected the value and we got along and straighten things out. And
Yeah.
crisis we have every 10 years economically just teaches us new ideas and new ways of getting through all these different chaotic ways of living.
Yes. I know there was an example about a long time ago, one of the old British colonies, an island somewhere, who went totally bankrupt, and they decided to start printing their own currency, and after a couple of years they have recovered their economy, and they could start engaging again with the world economy. But it was a long time ago. But it was a good example that actually works, just like you said in Argentina. Yeah.
If you go down to brass tacks, how many bars of gold are there in Fort Knox? It must be just about empty.
Where is it in Switzerland?
Well, in Switzerland, if they're the
Fort Knox is in the US, right?
Yeah, that is. But I mean, where is the gold? I said.
Oh, yeah.
And what is gold? Can you eat gold?
I was just about to say that. How much of that gold can you eat?
A little bit, but not much.
Yeah. Yeah, the ancient Egyptians and pharaohs apparently ate gold, but again, don't need those kind of quantities of gold bars.
I mean, they have in India, they have a tradition of making, what is it called? It's not physical gold, but it's something they do through the Ayurvedic teachings. What is it called? This kind of
white gold?
No, it's like it's almost like a Gans, you can say. It's a Ayurveda is the old traditional teachings of India, and they make some kind of gold powdery thing, which has maybe the atomic substance of gold, but it's not gold, something like that. And it's a traditional thing they've been doing for, I think, thousands of years. So,
like gold ormus?
Yeah, like gold ormus, I guess you would call it today. But Ayurveda came to existence a long time before ormus, I think. Ayurveda is one of the old Veda scriptures of India. I think it's been around for at least, I think they acknowledge it for 6,000 years or something like that. But I think the people claim themselves it hadn't been around much longer. But I think the West would say, yeah, okay, 6,000 years. Just like they say about the Indian old culture, they say something like that too. But the Indians themselves say that Krishna was around about 12,000 years ago, and Rama was around whatever. So, all these different claims of historical accuracy is, yeah. Anyway. But yeah, this is some kind of ormus gold, and I don't know. I never tried it. It's expensive. So
you can also have edible gold that's in very, very fine sheet. It's
popular in Asia.
You can have it in special delicacies and gourmet foods and so on as a covering on something and actually be able to eat it.
But you know what we do in Asia here? I mean, what people do here, they buy that sheet gold and they put it on the stupas, the pagodas, the statues of Buddha and so forth, as a way to, gain merit, an offering. It's very popular. You can go to any temple, especially in like Thailand, Myanmar, and Laos, and these very, what do you call it, Theravada Buddhist countries. They're very much for putting gold flakes on statues. And you buy them in the temple. They're not very expensive. You get a small very, 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 very thin gold sheet in your hand. And then you can go and put it on a statue and make some prayers. So yeah, it's common here.
Thomas makes a good point in the chat here. Business plan need not be integrated with money. It can be integrated with a teaching plan, a deliverable resource to an eager and willing receiver or learner. The term business plan is an outline, a planner, that's all. A sales call or introduction needs a deliverable follow-through. It isn't about money. We offer technology for peace. It is a negotiation. Good points, Thomas. Perhaps you better sign up for the team, for the delivery team.
Yeah, I think you should, Thomas. It sounded very good, actually. Very well thought through. We have so many participants, and come on, people, speak up.
Yes, let's move along. And what else do we have to offer here? I'm going to go back to my sharing of the plasma group thingy. Thank you, John, for your water pictures. Appreciate it, so to speak. Water pictures, get it? And appreciate your input there.
It's a great pleasure. The idea is to get ideas through to people to get things going in their zone.
Hi guys, it's Dean here from the UK. If I can make a
Welcome.
couple of conversations. Hello, thank you. John, you're saying about getting things done in your zone. I know you've done lots of things in and around you with the waters. Can you expand on that to give this to some people now so they can understand what you've been doing?
Well, I'm giving away about 200 to 400 liters a day. That was in the last 4 years, I must have given over 100,000 liters, and that's all going down the drain somewhere or another, or somewhere. And it's a way of spraying it out also. And if we all do this, we'll manage to cover the whole globe with plasma water.
Did you do the John? Did you do the on Sunday? Did you do the spraying?
No, other people that are working with me here in the zone, there are about 10 of them that did the job. Have practically no time. I'm tending to people continually, hour after hour, so it's pretty impossible for me to do. I got to keep my house going. Tending to my daughter, she doesn't do much work, and she does a bit of carpentry work, but I end doing her work in the end. So that's, each one of us has his own cross. We all have to go through all these ordeals.
Yes, I know what you're saying. It's going back to the conversation, John, where everybody was speaking about money and business plans and everything. Mr. Keshe has been teaching all this for a very long time, and it's all matter state, and we've been going round in circles. You know, we come back to the same point again, and then we just redigest it and start again. And it's the same thing. We need to raise the soul. We need to raise the soul so that it gets to a point where all of us move to a position where it changes, and that position within these universities, it's probably, I was in a teaching, I think it was last night, and they were saying there's one person blocking all of it now. And so we just need to raise the soul of that one person to move this forward, so humanity can start acting as one and start all these beautiful things that we know, all these wonderful teachings. We need to move it to a point where it's actually going to materialize in this reality.
Yeah, it's a question of concepts. Forget about the matter state concept. Work up to spiritual wise or field wise. This person apparently is a defense minister in Iran.
I think it was the health minister.
Health minister.
Yeah, we've got pebbles all along the roads we're going through, and we've got to overcome them and forget about all the matter state, go into the spiritual part of it. But the thing is that also Mr. Keshe says, I don't want to build churches. We've got to overcome this idea and go down to get a relation with our original soul.
And
goes back to the creation, doesn't it?
How might one do that is the question I'm throwing in here to
Yeah, well, that's
John or anyone involved here. As we were talking about techniques earlier and different things. So how does one, how do you elevate the soul? How do you elevate your own soul? Because that, as Stefania told us, well, years ago now, I suppose, she's one of the original Mojans who took the training from Mr. Keshe. And, you know, that's basically what she's saying. So,
but Rick, through time, many people have gone through this experience and raised their souls. I'm sure there's many souls that have managed to achieve this and done this. For, why is it not affected humanity in past moments? Why is it this moment that it needs to be another soul to do this when it's already been achieved?
Well, I may have an answer for this as somebody who's been through this initiation in this life of being united with the soul in a way that I went through an experience of burning away everything in the body that wasn't the soul, and I can say that I know that I am the creator. And so, in a way, this, like our goal that we want, it has already happened. Who we are in the future as a race, the human race, that is who we are now. And it's really, in a way, my experience is that it's really about us getting our own, and Mr. Keshe talks about this all the time, about us getting our own creation together. That, like, the beginning of our plasmatic creation is the thoughts. So, it's are we creating the world that we want to live in with our thoughts? Because we are creating the world with our thoughts. Like, literally, if anything can take me out of peace, then I'm not creating peace in the world. And, so I have to look at this all the time. We have to be masters of our own creation. This is like, like Mr. Keshe calls this a sandbox. It's kind of like, a sandbox is a playground to a child. And this is where we learn to master our creation. It is like a school here. So I wouldn't say that as somebody, I am the soul. And I would say that I am in the process of creating the exact world that I want to live in. I'm learning about business. I'm learning about this. I'm learning about that. I'm learning how to not give my power to any government. I'm learning how to be the government. I'm learning how to be the savior. And so I don't really think we're that far off, Dean. I really think that, you know, that it's a matter of you and me specifically watching our thoughts, making sure carefully tending our creation. Like when I talk to people sometimes about it through advertising, like why is it that we think that, you know, that advertising, so many billions of dollars is spent every year on advertising, when advertising, it doesn't really have much of a physical form. The point is that the real estate of your mind is the most precious real estate in this universe. And so, you know, we have to carefully tend our minds and make sure that we're creating the kind of world that we live in. So in that way, everybody's soul is being raised. We're a group, you know, like it wouldn't be fair if one of us could master our creation and it raises everybody up to where not everybody gets to have their own lessons. We all need to learn how to master our creation. There's plenty of time. Time isn't even real in that way. So that's my opinion on it as you know, the soul of the creator who's learning how to create the kind of world that I want to live in.
Very good, Brandon. I understand that. Through the teachings, Mr. Keshe has said in the past that the earth is, we are actually in a school. It's, you know, it's actually a teaching ground. The moment our soul arrives, we're, you know, the lessons begin. In fact, even when we're in the womb, the lessons begin. You know, when we receive our soul in the womb of the mother, is when we start our journey, our new journey on when we arrive on this planet. And so this experience we're going through, this wonderful thing, is a conscious, almost belief system. It's, you know, we're here, we're in a physical body. We arrive, we start as a toddler, as you say, we're in a sandbox, and we're learning. But we're now adults. We have children. We're all manifesting at different stages. But it's that group soul, that one soul. We still need to elevate that one soul. And as I've said, just stated, one soul has already achieved this. Many souls have achieved this. So we need to keep achieving it together as a group soul, one soul. And that one soul at the moment, as we spoke about earlier, that one soul, if we can shift that one soul, then we could shift a nation and a planet. So we need to elevate that soul at this precise moment. Maybe a few others, I'm sure there will be. So we can humanity can start the process of joining the universal community and have this wonderful experience we all know is going to be present.
I would like to add something. I think you're right. I would just put it slightly different. Instead of trying to elevate a specific soul, I kind of rather believe that we have to reach some kind of critical mass when the whole thing just, you know, start flowing by itself. I always believed in the critical mass somehow. So I think, and also, like Brandon kind of said when he used different terminology than I wouldn't, but because you know, people are different. But he talked about this thing that we have to tender. I think it was tender to our thoughts, or no, but something like that. Brandon, what did you use about your thoughts? The words you were using.
I was saying that we have to carefully tend our thoughts because that's the beginning of our creating this world. Is in
Exactly.
our thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And we have to tender our thoughts, and we have to, I would add, and also, of course, add the emotional value to it. So, because I believe that we are vibrational beings, so by adding the value of emotion to it, we make it more influential, more powerful, and it easier to manifest. But otherwise, yeah, Dean, yeah, I agree with you. Just that I wanted to add it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. This is why in the past, and it's still happening now, many people go to all these magical places across this planet to attain that position, that stillness within, to actually manifest the realities as they require, as they want to require. There's so many things going on across the planet, as we know, with so many distractions and things, that we come back to matter state constantly. But when you can find a stillness within, and sometimes that stillness within can be within a city for some people, but for other people it may need to be in a very quiet, still place. And it's finding that place within oneself, which is the beauty that we all need to be still with ourselves and acknowledge ourselves at some point, so we can, as a group, as a group soul, as that one soul, we can achieve this beauty that is going to happen very soon. If not, it's already happened. The reality is here. The moment we think about it being in the future, it won't happen, or the past. It's this very present moment. So in this present moment, we are present, and we can evolve. We can be everything we ever wanted to be in this reality.
By feeling ourselves into it.
Most definitely, yes.
Good point. So it's important to be present in the present with your presence, you might say. Brett in the chat says, the only thing I have to say is the path of unbelief of the path to the creation is wide, but the true path is narrow. Brett Hidley. Okay, that's a good way to put it.
Rick, I love these silent moments sometimes, the silent golden moments. You were talking about gold. I think there's the silence sometimes, the golden moment when the souls are talking to each other. Pure gold.
Yes, we have to learn to give everyone space in that sense. And I'm thankful for everyone here to give people the space, in spite of it maybe being contrary to our own expectations or own beliefs or whatever. I'm trying to be more and more lenient that way and allow people that I think, well, this doesn't seem relevant, but then I let them have their say, and then I go, wow, it actually was relevant. It was my perception that limited my ability to see what they were doing, basically. So, and certain people will resonate with certain others, and it may not resonate with me or you or whatever, but it does with somebody, and they may be that one person that needs to get that message for that particular moment. And if it resonates with them, then that message has been delivered. It's found a recipient. It's found a place that has, you could say, lifted the soul of at least one person. And that's enough to make a difference. And that's enough to justify a lot of interaction, if you can just have even one person be uplifted. So,
Rick, can I add something to what you're saying?
absolutely. Add, subtract,
It
multiply,
really
divide.
Okay, I choose multiply then. It just occurred to me while you were talking, while Dean was mentioning this minister, not defense minister, but minister of health earlier, I just felt his soul. I felt like the job was done, what we set out to do in the mission of his soul, mentioning this, that it was accomplished. But while you were talking, Rick, I realized, you know, I deal a lot with, like, I help people in relationships a lot. Most of what I do in interpersonal work is help people with relationships. And, you know, it's something we all know on a personal level with, like, our wives, our children, our parents, you know, everybody around us, our coworkers. People don't learn at our pace. Nobody learns at another person's pace because everyone like is a child of the creator that the creator is working through perfectly in its own time, you know? And so you know, the grace that we allow our wives, our husbands, our children to learn at their own pace. I feel that that's such a critical thing that we do in the world, and especially it's almost like before I knew that I could just raise someone's soul uh, and give to their soul from my soul and give freely forever. I really I was still allowing people to have the grace to learn at their own pace. So now it's even so much easier than it ever was before because now we have like a passive tool to, like, we can work behind people's backs for their own good. You know, we can, like, plot to help them. You know,
It's like plotting behind your back.
And the other
Yeah.
part, the other sentence that goes with that is take what you need. So you give freely and you just put it out and you're done with it. You don't have to negotiate, deal with it, do interactions, all the psychological, emotional things and so on. You just give and then let them deal with it. Take what you need and I am present. And just that simple presence and the giving with that no expectation of something coming back and just allowing them to take what they need because like you say it goes out it's eternal and it goes out infinite in a way so it's generated from that moment and goes out instantly and gets accepted or accepted as much as they can handle and it's done in a way so every time we do it like when that idea that concept comes up giving from the soul to raise the soul of another and you actually identify someone as opposed to being raising the souls of all beings everywhere, which is more of a general blessing that might be better to do in a way. But when somebody is designated as a blockage point in the flow of the energy that seems to be happening on the planet, and they get signaled out for a raising of their, soul, then well, that's what happens. It kind of happens all in the moment, and every time, but it can happen in many moments. I think it happened yesterday, like you're saying, and also just now when we were playing with that idea and brought that name up. We didn't even bring up a name. We brought up a position. The position is the blockage here, not even just a name. So it works. It's effective, and we'll see. I think we'll see some movement, some kind of action in the next couple of days. And Mr. Keshe is expecting that we'll wait till Friday. I think he mentioned, and that's what the Universal Council was kind of gearing up for as well to see this scientific paper released and see some action on that. Otherwise, the Keshe Foundation may release the paper. So we shall see, said the blind man. with one eye. Okay, any input, output?
Rick, I'd just like to say thank you very much for what you just said. That was beautifully worded and very well said. And I'm sure that will help many people. And we know that this is already happened. As you said, how many of us have already given from our souls to that individual or to individuals to inspire them and to create what we need to create to make this go forward. So thank you for those beautiful words.
I'll bet I'm imagining that when people, they know that their name got drawn out of the hat for raising their souls, they're imagining, their heads on the chopping block, or they're going to get a spanking, and but they just get a big group hug instead,
Some may get a hug, some may get a spanking. I think it was, what was the report that we heard earlier about the, in India, the Minister of Health, was it, in India, who passed away from the coronavirus?
That was Bangladesh, the religious leader and the health minister have left.
Oh, in Bangladesh.
But I think you were right, Rick, that there was the health minister of India actually been diagnosed with corona.
Maybe that's it. Okay. Okay, so what are some other means that we use to, what does it mean to raise our soul, or to elevate ourselves, or to elevate others? What Stefania was saying gets back to my original idea there, is that her main thing she was trying to get across was, in order to elevate others, you must elevate yourself first. So it always comes back to, if you want to create world peace, start with yourself and try to create peace inside. It's easier said than done, to be peaceful inside and to respect and treat others with that idea of being peaceful as well. And tolerating the manifestations of others is a challenge, because you can tolerate most of the manifestations of others, but there's always going to be someone or something that really irritates you, and you just can't help but burst out in some sort of outburst that ends up being emotional and not respecting that person's space, basically, in a way. So this is always the challenge, I think, as we go through life, to this idea of love is very good, but when you're working shoulder to shoulder, if anybody actually does that anymore, with others, like with a group, for example, or even working as we do here, or in other knowledge seekers workshops, or other groups that are working, it's difficult to tolerate the manifestations of everyone, because like I say, there's always something that'll get you. This someone's tone of their voice just gets, it's just like fingernails on, glass or something is screeching, and it's just, oh, it's so irritating. Or maybe it's, someone that just reminds you of a childhood injury you had because their voice sounds the same or their manner is similar or whatever. So there's lots of little things that can get us, and if we're actually affected that way, if we are not able to tolerate, and that's not unconditional love. That's not one of the indicators of unconditional love, which would be able to tolerate all manifestations, because you're in that place that accepts the universe as it is, completely and unconditionally. But that is a tricky place to be. That is the razor's edge, you might say.
I think the trick is to not identify with this thing that you have been taught to identify with, the body, the name, and all the other things that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's no one there to be bothered about someone else's opinion or emotional reaction or anything.
Right.
That's
so
at least.
Go ahead,
sorry.
You first.
Okay. No, that's how I kind of been dealing with it since I started my so-called journey of self-awareness, and just there's no one there.
That was my point, is that it is a journey, and it's not a journey where you keep adding things to your pack of baggage. It's like, okay, now I've got.
You're subtracting things, yeah.
You're actually subtracting. It's a subtractive process, not an additive.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do it, but then in the same time, when you subtract, then you also come to the conclusion that it's all there. It's like I can refer to the Buddhist teachings again. They're kind of good at this. They talk about emptiness, and emptiness is not empty. It is the potential of all.
Yes, exactly. The voidness of the void is the core of the creator, the core of all creation. Yeah. And that's where all the greatest potential is, in the voidness. That's where it's all potential, and that's the scary part of it.
And then you apply that to yourself, your idea of yourself instead. And then all potential is with you. But first you have to get rid of the ideas of who you think you are in a separated state in relationship to others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not such easy to say, not so easy to do, but yet it can happen all in one moment at the same time. So
yeah. Well, you can remind yourself every day that when something happens, they're talking to my body, I'm not this. I'm far beyond this. Yeah, I'm that.
That's the not this, not that exercise. I am not this body reaction. Right. I am not this mind. I am not this emotion. But yet they all can be indicators, like you say, to point you in the direction of who you really are, which is how do we get to that core? And what about meditation? Is that something that is useful in a sense? Mr. Keshe often talks about it being not so useful, that meditation is, you're better off just being alive in the moment, basically, and connecting directly without having to do meditation.
That's I mean that's true, of course. I mean if you can only connect when you're meditating, then you haven't been able to bring your state of meditation into your daily life. But I think as a starting point, I think it's a good method. But it doesn't suit everyone, of course. Some of us were born just sitting in a sofa doing nothing, and we're very fine with that. And I was one of them. So, you know, and others wanted to do things, and that was their path. And then I believe that you can use technologies like the yoga science and learn from them and try breathing techniques and all kind of things to, you know, get different experience of different states. Doesn't mean that that's going to happen every time you try the technique, and it doesn't mean that you have become a realized being or anything like that. It just gives you a broadened experience, which is showing you that you experiencing in your daily life is a limited expression of what you really are. That's how I used it, at least, meditation.
I just posted in our chat the meditation that I use that came through my body. I was in a place called Truth or Consequences. It's in New Mexico. And I love Truth or Consequences, even just by its name, you know, Truth or Consequences. And they have these hot springs there. And so because I broke my sternum and I didn't go to the doctor because it was a spiritual initiation, I've had to go through basically putting the body back together in a way that's in harmony with the soul. And this one time I was there soaking at the springs, and I was having this terrible pain in my left shoulder. And it was so bad that all I could do is, you know, do what I call meditate, you know, and I meditate all the time. But I don't know, that's the diabolical thing about the English language is when I say meditate, everybody here thinks something different, you know,
True.
and probably none of them are what I'm thinking. And so, you know, so I was having this terrible pain, and I went into my body and began to do what I call meditating, which is like a form of communication with the soul. And I saw myself, and I had this big bag over my shoulder. It was like a big brown sack, and I had it over my shoulder, and the weight of the sack was breaking my shoulder. This is my left shoulder over the heart, and this picture of me within my inner vision, it looked like I was like a vagabond Santa Claus, you know, like a Santa who was walking around and like a poor vagabond, like homeless Santa, and I just felt so, you know, it was like a sad sight. And then I was like, geez, well, you know, what's in the bag? And in this bag that was thrown over my shoulder was the blood and bones of everyone in the whole world, the old blood and bones. And it was actually the weight of the world that was breaking my shoulder. The weight of the world was like weighing on my heart and breaking my shoulder. And so I just like started, you know, crying and, you know, like with compassion. And I was like, you know, what can I do here? And this meditation that I just posted in the chat is what came through this meditation. It was very clear. It's I am everything. I am everyone, everywhere, and all at once. I am it. And as soon as I said that meditation, this clear water poured through the bag and the bag emptied. And then this bag blew up like a huge balloon further around me than I could even begin to touch. It was like I was surrounded by this bag that was breaking my shoulder, became actually a new skin to what I call the God body. My real body is much bigger than what it is that I knew at the time was my body. And so I still use this meditation all the time, and it actually does empty the weight of the world from my body. And it reminds me of the truth that I am everything. I am everyone, everywhere, and all at once. And I am it. And it is like this word that means nothing, it means everything. It's something that's completely intangible. So, in a way, this is a meditation in English that seems to accomplish what the ancients, meditated for, of us becoming the real self. So, this is one that works for me. And every time I use it, I feel like if I am feeling weighed down by the world or other people's actions or anything like this, I use this meditation and everything. Just the weight of the world is lifted off my shoulders immediately. And my energy begins to expand in a way that, like I said, this body, this skin of the body is enormous. So I hope that's helpful to someone out there.
Thank you for sharing.
Sarah mentions in the chat, being in the I am presence is the only way to offer freely from your soul. Does that make sense?
There are probably other ways too. But it's one of the ways.
All right, I'll take the bait. What are some of the other ways?
I wasn't meant as a bait. It was more meant that we shouldn't get stuck in certain words and wordings and which can become very rigid, because we are all different individuals. Even though we come from the same source, we are different combinations of colors and energies and vibrations, or whatever you call it. So yeah, that's what I want to say with that, because it easily can become like, yeah, this is the way we do it. And if someone does it in a different way, then suddenly you're not one of us. So that's why I just mentioned that.
I know that Carolina mentioned maybe a couple of months ago, an exercise of breathing into the soul and having the intent that the breath feeds the soul first, and then that the soul feeds the body once you've fed the soul. And I know that I eat physical foods, like I choose physical foods by what is in harmony with the soul of the man and the soul of the body. And that's really helped me tremendously. But it kind of bypasses the ego. It's pretty fun too to eat for the soul because it kind of opens up a mystery, because all of a sudden what I like doesn't matter. what I prefer doesn't matter. What I'm used to doesn't matter. Just choosing a food that's choosing a store, choosing a food that's in harmony with the soul. It's really a great adventure. It really helps me to feel like I have the mind of a child whenever I eat for the soul, because all of a sudden I'm in this adventure of finding a food that that's in harmony with the soul. So then it because of the plasmatic principle of like attracting like and harmonies building each other, it builds the energy of the soul scientifically.
Okay, so that's an interesting idea that soul food can be different than physicality food, you might say.
There are certain consistencies that I've found eating this way, and even teaching other people how to use the soul as a reference point to find foods. And I've done sort of blind studies, you would say, by teaching them technique, and then we all end up finding the same foods. It's very interesting.
What foods do you consume? What is your technique? It would be wonderful to share that.
Yeah, well, I guess I could, sure. Maybe I can share a screen. I'll give you an example real quick. Let me find a pendulum, and I think I have something fun here. So yeah, give me just a moment. And I'll create a situation and show you guys exactly what I do.
Andreas says in the YouTube, Brandon, yes, your meditation helped me.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I do think that certain things are universal because we really are a family, and we're not like, yes, we have our differences, but we have way more similarities. So, and this is what I found consistently with products in stores. Like I can't even, as much as I love organic food, I can't even walk into a Whole Foods. Like the last time I tried to walk into a Whole Foods, it was just a devastating experience because the quality of their energy as a company doesn't seem to float the boat of the soul. But Trader Joe's, that has way less organic food, has a much higher quality energy. And I think in large, it's because of the actual soul of the company. It has to do with the original intent of the owners and what they were choosing to create. And you know, these things matter much more than we would know. And it's a fascinating thing. Okay, so I'll start sharing. I'll share a screen. So start screen sharing. Okay, screen. Start now. Okay, then I go to my camera. Okay. So this is a pendulum. Okay, we'll start here. This is the pendulum. And so the very first thing that I do, you see the way that the pendulum is spinning. This is a counterclockwise rotation. Actually, I'm going to turn my battery saver off so it stops doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to turn this on and actually just start a video so that it won't, oh, I guess it won't do that. So anyway, this is a pendulum, and so what I do first is the counterclockwise spin is harmony. Okay, so disharmony is the clockwise spin. Okay, so the very first thing I do is focus on, let's say, the soul of the body. So the soul of the body is what I'm focusing on right now. I'm just going to hang on. This is a really heavy pendulum, so it kind of swings my arm. But the soul of the body is the reference point that I'm focusing on. And I'm doing that by creating the words within my mind, within my plasmatic thoughts. I'm focusing on one thing, the soul of the body. And I'm locking onto it right now, like almost like a heat-seeking missile system in the mind. I'm using the pendulum as like the guide to show me that I'm locked into that one thought, the soul of the body. Okay, and now I'm going down to these two alcohols because this is what I have right now to show an example of. This is like a really nice organic sotol from Mexico. You can't even find this stuff in America, and it's definitely what I would prefer over a thing of bullet whiskey. But when I focus in on soul of the body, and I check this, and I basically, one reference point is the soul of the body, and then I see, then this is my second reference point right here, and so I see if they line up, or rather if they line up, sort of how they line up, but it's really if they line up, because if they're not in harmony, then I get this. I get this swing here when I check this one. So again, soul of the body, I make sure I'm locked into the soul of the body. Okay, and then I check this and see no harmony there. No harmony with the soul of the body. Okay, soul of the man. So soul of the man, and I'm focusing into the pineal organ and making sure I'm focused on the soul of the man. Okay, darn it, none there either. So that's not a food for me, not a food for my soul. It doesn't matter if I like it or not at this point. So then, okay, so soul of the body, that's what I need to focus on first, is soul of the body. And now I'm lining up this other thing here with the soul of the body. And there we go. A pretty decent harmony of energy for the soul of the body. Now this one, nothing. This one, harmony. You guys see how that works? This one, no harmony. This one has a really nice harmony. Now, soul of the man is doesn't like alcohol at all. So that's an example of how this works. So I do the same thing when I'm choosing music. When I'm choosing, like, let's say I'm gonna go buy a speaker, then I choose a speaker that's in harmony with my soul. Then the actual sound that's playing through the speaker is building the energy of my soul. It's very different than just saying, oh, I like Bose or I like this kind of speaker. Who cares? Like, who cares what I like? It's irrelevant. You know, what's relevant is building the reference point of the soul. And this developing this technique has really helped me to just have the mind of a child, because I don't care what I like anymore. I don't care what I prefer. Those are the least interesting things in my universe because I already know those things. I already know what I like. I know I like chocolate. So the adventure then is to check a store and just check the whole store and see if there's any chocolate in there for me. Nope, none in there, none in there. I keep checking. And oh, there's a chocolate in this store that's in harmony with my soul. Well, I wonder what it is, you know? And then I go in and it's like, oh wow, even better than I thought. It's, you know, like Haagen-Dazs chocolate ice cream. Like that's that's awesome. And the whole thing is an adventure. It's an adventure, a scientific adventure that's going to build my soul's energy. It's so cool. It's so cool. It's so much fun. So you guys got me going on what I'm passionate about now. This is what I love. It's what really keeps me going in a way that life can remain fun because it's all new. You know, everything's new every day. So even when I'm planting in the garden, I don't just use any heirloom seed. You know, I go through the whole catalog and I find seeds that are in harmony with my soul, and then I grow those seeds. Just like when I choose a salt for making the Gans, I choose a salt that's in harmony with the soul. And then my Gans works for building the soul in a way that's very in harmony with the soul. So I did an experiment in the beginning and bought some Gans from the Keshe Institute, and then I made my own Gans and did a side-by-side experiment with them, and it was tremendous, the difference. So, and I think this is part of the science of what Mr. Keshe is teaching us, is how to create. And so this is what it is for me, because we are what we eat. Like, in other words, like I eat a banana, it becomes Brandon's body. You know, like Rick eats a banana, it becomes Rick's body. And, you know, it's amazing because it's just a banana, like a miracle. So then if we can find foods that are in harmony with our soul, it builds the soul so much faster, because like we were talking earlier about this being a school, like Earth being like a class. And this technique, it helps to kind of move through the levels in the school, and in kind of a more definite way. I can monitor everything. You know, I bought a car that was in harmony with my soul. So it wasn't the car that I would have gotten for sure. But I love this car, And everywhere I go, it encourages my soul to come forth and be a dominant energy in this reality. And it's really beautiful. My technology, the phone that I'm using, is in harmony with my soul, the phone company that I use. And so this way, I'm moving in one direction. I'm just moving in one direction. I don't care what I like. I don't care what I prefer. What I care is that the soul is the one in control, that the soul is manifesting in this reality. That's what I care about. And so I'm using a scientific method for assuring that that's the case for sure. And by the way, there's people who do this thing called body dowsing, and this system of divining or dowsing, it translates readily to the body. You don't have to use a pendulum. It's just that it's fast and it's easier for me to show an example using a pendulum. So I'll quit talking now, but thank you guys very much for asking.
Thank you for that. That was very interesting and inspiring too.
Yes, thank you, Brandon.
Thanks for listening. That was fun.
That's good that you had fun too.
There's this saying, if it isn't fun, you're not doing it right, as far as the evolution game. Any other comments here? Feel a break in the force, Luke. We are coming up on 1, 2, 3, almost 4 hours here.
Hi, here's Skywalker.
Hi.
Hi, I have a small thing for all. I have two looks good pictures. It's a red rose and this wonderful thing.
Two pictures that you took, you say?
Yes.
Okay, you want to share them now?
Yes. I have this rose 3-4 years. I give Gans water, and it's so small. Have a 3, 4, 5. It's not so really good, the rose. Wait a minute. Okay, here. This is the end product. And here's another one. The two rows interaction with another. You see on this picture, left and right, a little bit is left is magnetical and right is gravitational, I think. And the another rows have the same structure. I see this one, and I look at. I have 2 years later. I have under the rose the marshal fungi, the big ones, and not growing in this small area. It's no so many nature in this, and the Gans structure give many proportion from in this area. The another right side, the green one. It's so many beans. It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. Sing a song, everyone. It's so amazing. My he came out the neighborhood and he said, "Wow, this is beautiful." And you see here, there's so many beans in this one. They're growing, growing, growing. It's the last 3 years, 4 years. I give it the many ganses, the good proportion, and I have another one. Is a little bit in the left side. Do you not see? Next time I make a picture, is violet. I don't know what is this plant, and this plant have a small small balls, many small balls, and this ball is very violet, and 3 years later it's nothing from this. And today go next next beans go today is growing, many growing, and from July with December, it's the balls there. It's very cool. It's so shiny balls. And the time come to me black beans. So specific beans. These beans live in the old in the I don't know what I say. Specific beans, the big beans. So this isn't so black and little bit auch little bit he have so specific violet black. It's very interesting, and he have a big sound when he come to my flowers. I think the big jet come. It's very nice. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Skywalker. Any more sharing from anyone? once, going twice. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it for today then. Allow me to get a little bit of sleep this fine morning. All right, well, this has been an interesting plasma group. I appreciate everybody's input and patience. Well, we have a bit of slow dead air time for space. We're giving moments of silence for space, the final frontier. It gives us all more elbow room in a way. So if you think of the nanotechnology, the nanostructures give a little more elbow room than the matter level, and the Gans gives another gradation of elbow room to the materials. Perhaps that's the way of our evolution as well, as we allow everyone around us to have more elbow room and to allow us to have more elbow room at the same time connected. All right, thanks everyone for being here for the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. And we look forward to the Knowledge Seekers Workshop coming up tomorrow. That's Thursday, June 25th at 9 a.m. Central European Time. And we shall see what Mr. Keshe has in store for us, see what surprises come up. Seems there's something new every day, at least, if not every hour on the hour. So new products, new connections, and new information. So stay tuned. See you next week at the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group as well. And of course, we have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace coming up next Tuesday. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, everyone.